We have
Fantastic.
Great Grandpa BB with us. Do you prefer Great Grandpa BB or
Yes.
Matthew BB? Or do you not want people to know your true name?
Matthew is a very strange name to me.
It's always weird when I hear it.
Yeah, no one ever calls me. But that is my real name. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like when people call me Joey.
Yeah.
I've known you a long time if you're calling me Joey.
Right,
Like, when you
yeah,
hear it,
exactly.
That's probably for you too. Like if
Yeah.
somebody calls you Matthew, it's probably
Yeah.
like a close family member in all time.
There was an old the owner of the Stone Tavern used to call me Matthew all the time. But it was Lou, so I knew his voice and I knew that's what he called me, and so it wasn't weird.
Where's
at
the
that
Stone
point.
Tavern at?
Kent?
Why do I know that name? Lou too. But they do.
Yeah.
They did music there too, right?
Yeah. They did a lot of rock. It was a little rock and roll tavern.
I don't want to swear to it, but Lou sounds really familiar in the Stone Tavern. So
Yeah. He's old. He's a little older. He was a lawyer for a long time, and then he just quit and opened a rock and roll tavern and he had it for maybe almost 7 years, maybe somewhere around there.
My grandfather's brother was a lawyer, and he owned a pub, an Irish pub out west. And out back they had a volleyball team.
Yeah.
But he was like this real proper lawyer type.
Yeah.
I think that was his kind of like getaway project.
Yeah. They get burned out 80 hours a week, and it's just like,
I'm pretty sure he was always like, he was very dedicated to what he did. So
yeah, that's cool.
What's this podcast you have called?
I have a podcast called Grandpa's Travelogue, and it's kind of about my travels. Like my plan overarchingly is to book tours of my solo act, Great Grandpa BB, and then to hit the different cities, call ahead of time, try to find some people, places to stay, people to interview.
Yeah, what a great idea.
Yeah, and try to figure out how many days I need to stay in each location, interview as many people as I can, and then move on,
So are you looking for, you're not just looking for music, you're looking for, like, you just interviewed somebody that was into, it was environmentally into environment. So it looks like there's like a broad range that you're willing to bounce.
Yeah, I'm
with.
way into energy, alternative energy solutions, way into anthropology, music, obviously, the arts. I talk a lot about the mind and just like real basic life stuff, I guess, I don't know, like different basic psychology intrigues me a lot. How do you start your day? Like, how do you get momentum going?
Yeah.
Like all of those
things that are so basic, but difficult at the same time for people too.
Yeah. I generally don't have anybody like reigning over my time in any way. So I have to structure everything myself, like every day. And it's awesome, but like I've been doing it for a really long time, and it's hard to like know what you should be doing at any given moment, I guess.
Yeah, so that changes depending on your needs.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
I'm guessing, because Brad and I both work for ourselves. We're working together and working separately on projects. So, so that's a good point, right? Do you ever struggle at figuring out what you need to do during the day?
Yes, all the time.
Can definitely relate to that, baby.
Yeah. I find that like if I can meditate the night before the day, and then like I'll usually have like 5 or something things pop in my head. I'm like, oh shit, you know what? I need to do this. And then I was like, wait, I also need to do this. And then it starts cascading, like, list of things that was already in my head that I completely forgot all day. And then I'm just okay.
That happens a lot. Like that happened to me today. You ever start on a project and then you get sidetracked on this?
Yeah, all the time.
Man. And then you got to pull yourself back in because that's probably an important piece, but you're not sure, So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is like the losing losing of distractions, and then just kind of concentrating on your thoughts as they arise, kind of like tunes you into where you are and what you're doing, and almost like what your inspiration is at the moment too. Like if there's like I'll always have like 20 different projects on the back burner at any given time. So there's always like a range of things in that are possibilities that I could be doing. depending on how I'm feeling, like, and that's kind of what I base it on, I suppose. And
I guess if you're sitting quiet, then you kind of, that's telling you where to go.
Yeah.
Because you're like, all right, what's really important to me right now? And do I have enough energy for this kind of?
Or like this week, I'm like, okay, I have a show on Friday. Like I want to practice some piano.
It's working.
Like, yeah.
I've seen that. even without going through doing some. So you got something coming up. I forget where though. Can you tell us?
Yeah, over at Strum Around here in Sandusky, where we are right now. Should be a good one. I'm picking up a bunch of old piano songs I wrote like 5 years ago. I just wrote and recorded an album in October, so a lot of those songs are fresh, and I'm like learning how to play like solo versions of those on piano currently, and also trying to pull in other things that I've learned over the year too. Just trying to get a hodgepodge of different songs together as I do.
Yeah, what keeps you going? Focused on all these different interests, hobbies, endeavors that you have. Like you have your podcast, you're a musician.
Yeah.
You're into a lot of interesting subjects, physics.
Yeah, true.
What makes the universe go round? What else are you doing? You have your the thing you do with your dad with the King Midgets. Yeah. You have a screen print shop too, right?
Yeah.
So, like, how do you stay on track with all of this?
It's just focusing on what you're doing at the time, and just doing the best thing that you can in what you're doing while you're doing it, I think. And just being focused on that. And usually I forget all of the things that like I'll be like, oh, well, there's all these people I got to contact for the music festival or something, but like, I won't think about that until, like I was saying, like if I meditate on something, then all of those things will pop up again. And because I completely lost focus on the broader spectrum of things I got to do, because I'm doing only one thing at a time.
When you brought up a good point, and this was a conversation we had off air, was that this was a while ago too, if I remember right, and if I'm wrong, correct me please. But the process of setting up even the music festival has progressed and changed.
Oh yeah.
So it's not all of this isn't last minute now as much, right? So it seems like once it's almost finished, maybe a month or two goes by, and then there's this incremental process of moving back towards that project sporadically. And different intensities.
Not to cut. Did you hear it again?
Yeah.
Same interference.
I don't know what it is.
Something is like interfering with our mic.
Oh, okay.
But we don't know what it is.
Random buzzing noises.
Yeah.
So we can't figure out what it is. So.
Dang.
But anyways.
Yeah.
Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, the festival. This year will be the 11th festival I've thrown in the last 10 years, and the 9th Jubilee go. But like, I don't know, the whole process, like I'm starting way earlier now. At least the last 4 or 5 years, I've been trying to start in January booking wise. So I know that I can get bands that I want to get, early
enough, and then start to think of that process and then move forward.
Because that's the main thing at this point. And then there's a lot of other things I don't have control over yet anyhow, like whatever the main design is. Grabus kind of took that over as far as Mark Grabus is an amazing graphic designer, and he took over all the main artwork, poster work, t-shirt
and he has
artwork.
Done some great designs over the years. So
you showed me some of his work.
I think this will be his 5th year doing it with me. I did all the design before that point, and that was always just stressful. That was a stressful part of it for me, was trying to like decide what the like theme and the artistic direction of the festival was going to be.
Well, and I think it goes back to what we were talking about too, is like there's certain processes that we should hand over to other people or have them do it because they're better at it.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're more efficient at it.
And they want to do it already too, whereas I just did not like at first it was fun for me. And then like, I was like, oh, I'll just use this art that I made earlier. And then, and then I had other ideas. And then like by about the third one was still cool, but I was like kind of like losing my focus on trying to make a theme and just trying to make artwork. and then I tried to go too far with the theme, and it just became kind of shoddy artwork. And then Grabus took over. And I was like, okay, cool.
Got a little muddy.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not really like trained in visual arts as much, but everybody's a designer now by default in certain ways.
No, I was thinking it's nice when you find individuals who have other talents and they're better in certain areas than you. We've talked about that, and I'm not intimidated by somebody that's better at something.
Yeah.
I actually welcome it, and that's even in things that I think I'm decent at. Like, I don't mind that, and I don't know if you feel the same way. I know from talking to you, you feel that way, but I'm sure you're not threatened by somebody that can do better at graphic design or even music or however you look at that. I think it's
because there's enough that needs to be done in the world. Like, if everyone's doing what they're good at, I think that there's still going to be 10,000 more jobs that need to be done on top of it anyhow. So might as well just let them. And you guys were there at the last festival, and that was amazing. Thank you.
I've been booked every year.
Yeah.
But 2. And I was able to come out on a Saturday the year before, 2 years before.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was a Saturday. I wasn't booked. That came out. And then this one, I had nothing planned. And I was out there both days and even the night before. So helping set up.
When is that? What's the date for Jubilee Go?
September 23rd and 24th, 2022.
Yeah. Can you explain to us like what exactly Jubilee Go is?
Well, the concept, I always wanted to throw a music festival, growing up. And then, like once I started going by Great Grandpa BB, there was like an automatic kind of community that kind of like, had kind of just naturally, I became a part of, right? Where like I was in Kent making music with a few bands. And then I was also in Norwalk recording and, Akron and just different places around the area where I was like kind of running around to all the time. And that became kind of like my own ecosystem of musicians, so to say. And then when I moved back to Norwalk, like in 2013, there was an album that came out of a bunch of us that like worked really well. And we all kind of like, I met Chew Dat Frog through that, and Emily Keener, and the Womacs were on it. I already was at all their shows anyhow, and a bunch of us were on there. And a couple things were happening at the same time, because I had my whole like kind of bluegrass groups of people, Johnny and the Apple Stompers over in Kent. Corey Grinder was in that band, and then I was recording Mikey Brown's band, and he's just like, you should have like a Great Grandpa BB 100th birthday party, you know?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, this year's your 109th birthday, right?
Should be, yeah.
What day? So. When is that?
My actual birthday is the 28th of September. Yeah.
Okay, so you'd be 109 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to check and make sure I was right on that.
100 that number. I think you brought up a good point,
Betty
though.
White don't got nothing.
Nothing. Too early, never too early. Betty White would love that. You brought up an important thing, like the ecosystem. Too soon, never too soon with Betty White. She'll fucking love it. Dead or alive.
Yeah, Betty White's amazing. She'd be cool with jokes.
Oh yeah, totally.
She's got jokes.
Yeah, she does. And did. Yep. So you're saying the ecosystem. And so those are different peaks and valleys in our lives. A lot of times the ecosystem that we create around ourselves, depending on how we're operating in life.
Right, that's true.
And so, but there's always key players in that in your life. I mean, you can always anchor yourself to different characters like that in your life. So yeah, it's interesting. And I think that's when I met you, is early on, before some of that stuff was happening. I remember, was it Chris Castle that had a place up there?
Yeah.
I've been around a little bit, but I had lived in Florida for a while, came back and and was back around here. And then I was searching for music because this place was just not what I was used to, or I wanted a local scene and all of us. So anybody that had something like that, I was kind of going out to check it out because it's relaxing to me. And that's how I met you.
Yeah.
You had been traveling a little bit during that time.
Yeah.
And I remember the first night I met you, and got a chance to hear you on stage, I'm like, okay, this is different, right? You know, something new.
I made an impression. Is what
You
you're
did,
saying.
absolutely. Not only did you make an impression musically that night, you made an impression with me, is that you were able to hold a conversation afterwards.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
And so that stuck with me too, because that's important too.
Yeah, sometimes early on I had kind of a problem with that. I always felt like after a show, I sometimes felt overwhelmed in different ways, right? Where like my ego would get too big in certain ways, and like I wouldn't be, or like I would be too excited.
Well, the
about
adrenaline
things.
too,
Yeah,
and then the awkward. But you sunk in. I mean, we stood for a little bit and just had a kind of a normal conversation. It wasn't about music. I said I enjoyed listening to you, and then we went off to something else. And I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what we talked about that night.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of nights.
Yeah. But I think that's true with a lot of musicians. You bring up a good point. That nervousness. I dated a woman that did folk music.
Okay.
And she traveled to Nashville and did some things, but she was an introvert, and she get on stage and you're like, holy shit, that lady's not the same lady I know. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, and she would be really nervous beforehand. So we'd get playful and kind of get through the jitters, you know, sometimes. But yeah.
Yeah, you gotta consistently stay in front of a microphone, I think, you know, when you're I don't know how much belief I have in the whole like introvert extrovert idea. Like I do, it does seem to ring true in some cases, but
I think you can use it as an excuse not to do something too.
That's true too.
Okay, so that's kind of where I'm at with that. Just because go ahead. But
because there's like a certain balance. There's a certain balance between that I know that I have to have, where I have to be by myself for a certain amount of time, and then I need to find people. And if I don't have both of those things, then I become unbalanced.
Well, yeah, because you can't create. It's hard to create sometimes. You need that. You can create with people, but sometimes you need that downtime to be able to think and create for yourself.
And regardless of if I'm creating or not, it's just like a sanity thing.
Yeah, no shit.
Like seeing people in the real world and real life is like grounding in certain ways. But then also like being solitary and isolation is also grounding in other ways, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that.
And you can't really know who you are yourself without both of those sides, you know? And that's, I mean, some people purposely, well, I don't know. Like there's certain, like if you say introvert, extrovert, it might just be a thing where like people think that of themselves, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because they'll try to be in one spot more than the other spot. Okay. And then if you constantly are at home, you're a homebody and you don't want to go out and see people very often. And
it's like being in front of the mic. If you don't, I'm sorry to interject, but it's like being in front of the mic. Same with personality. If we're not doing it, you lose kind of your edge. Like,
and there's like a momentum too. Like if you're at home, you want to stay at home more, you know, you don't want to change.
You get into that comfort zone.
Yes.
And you become used to it, and it's easy.
Yeah.
You know?
I had a psychologist tell me once, or a therapist tell me, a friend of mine, he says, you know, change, when we're modifying behavior with individuals and we're working with them to improve their lives, change doesn't happen at, like, if you look at a Likert scale from 1 to 10, change doesn't happen at 10.
Right.
It might not even happen at 8.
Yeah.
You know, 7, 6, but you can't keep it at 7 and 8 all the time. You have to bring it back down a little bit. And that to me made a lot of sense, just in life general.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, you have to have a balance, like you're saying. And like you said, it's so important to get away and know yourself. Like I take and sit by the lake for 2 hours a day in the summer, and to the point where people think I don't have a job.
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, what'd you do? You know, you're sitting in front of your TV for 6 hours. I just went out to the water and sat for 2, you know?
All right, I got 2 things to say about this. Okay. So when you're talking about how change happens at certain, like if you, on a scale of 1 to 10, you're alone at 1 and you're with tons of people at 10 or something like that. Yeah. I would say that there's like a sine wave type of function happening, right? Or even like different waveforms in general, musically speaking, right? Or like electromagnetic wave spectrum speaking, right? Like there's like saw waves that go like this, where you're like, oh, see a lot of people, no one forever. And then a lot of people, no one, you know, like there's different patterns to that.
Well,
right?
That might be the way they vibrate as a human too. I mean, there's writers like that.
That's true too.
Some writers just fucking disappear and fall off the, you know, and write. And there's, or artists. You look at Einstein. He was just dive into something. It's terrible for relationships sometimes, but look what he's created, or she has created.
Or Tesla, for that matter, when you like talking about mad scientists, like he was very much isolated for the majority of his life in a large sense. He was never married, never really had any like relationships to speak of other than like one lady he was like kind of a pen pal to, but he would just like stick with like, what is vibration, what is like the future of humanity and energy and, what we're doing here. And he had a lot of foresight, and he completely changed the world within a matter of one lifetime.
Speaking of mad scientists.
Yeah.
Have you figured out teleportation yet?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that a secret?
Yeah,
is that like top secret? Oh, you did?
Yeah.
He's actually not here right now.
It's all about the Bose-Einstein condensate.
Oh, shoot.
Or at least that's my comic book theory. It's a working hypothesis.
So Brad brought up some really good points about you. It's like you have all these things that you're interested in. And I think it's pretty healthy to be interested in.
Yeah. Wide spectrum.
Yeah. It's like, check it out. There's a lot you can do on this world.
Yeah.
And so the other thing I noticed, we were going through, you're working on an album right now, you said?
Yeah. I just recorded it in October, and I've been in the mixing and re-recording process since then. And it's middle of January now. And it feels like it's so close to being done.
And so, a big chunk of your life is music.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? And so this last couple years has been really tough on some of our other friends and getting out to play. And you said you're playing Saturday.
Friday. Yep.
Friday, I'm sorry.
Yep.
And what's the place you're playing at?
Strum Around.
Why do I not know that place?
Yeah.
It's so
weird.
weird.
It was here for a while, and then it moved to like Vermilion, I think, and now it's back again. But it used to be right across from the Halo Live.
And where's it at now?
I don't know. I've never been there yet. I'm going there for the first time on Friday to play there.
I went to the beach house and didn't know where I was going for Christmas, so I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I didn't know where
I just know I'm going
on the way here.
I'll figure it out. So you're going to go do that. But so has that changed for you, and how is that looking different now?
Live music?
Yeah, so how is that?
As far as my solo live act goes, right?
So what are you doing to...
Well, so last May was the first show that I did in like a year because 2020 happened, and I really quit playing music for an entire season and a half or so in the summertime of 2020, which is the longest period of time I didn't play music basically ever since I was a kid. And then by the time November hit, I had got out of a relationship, and then like I just started writing instrumentals and things, partially for a short film that you and me filmed in 19.
When are you releasing that?
Yes. So the plan is I'm thinking March, because like I was thinking about this before we were doing this, I was like, because it's done, this is sitting there.
The poster is done too, right?
What is?
The poster is done too, right?
The poster. Yeah. You were the photographer for that. Man, this is half the production team right here.
Right here.
Hey, this is your show too.
Yeah.
Remember that.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to air on the Travelogue. And what's your guys' podcast
called? That's funny. You would.
We have 500. What the fuck podcast?
We have 500 names down, and we can't come up with one.
Yeah.
No name.
Yeah,
we have like
keep adding to it.
Know how many
It'll
names.
Come together. We're not worried about it.
Nice. Yeah.
Brad,
it took me a while.
Brad and Joe at this point.
We're kind of trying to tie down the premise of it. It's I think the format we're going for is kind of, I don't know, like a way to put out valuable information, educational stuff, and at the same time
have fun
with what we're doing. We're kind of, giving our experiences and with what's currently going on in our lives and where we're going from there, how we're doing it, whether it has to do with like
the rental
financial
property,
freedom or business, and then anything in between. So it's all up in the open and kind of figuring it out.
Well, and like even the area we live in too, we have a lot of individuals that are doing great things, man.
Oh, like for sure.
A community doesn't just, you can focus on the guy that has an upside down cross on his forehead that just murdered somebody in Sandusky, Ohio.
Yeah,
right. You can focus on that, and I think it's
quote unquote interesting people.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but there are individuals who are passionate about what they're doing. You know, we have people that are building catering businesses in town. We have, you know, we just lost somebody that had 4 businesses in town, you know, like, you know, so it's, you know, and those people are really intricate in people, you know, their restaurants and stuff. So people gather at restaurants and music and da-da-da-da-da, right?
There's
so
a reason they're called pillars of the community.
Yeah.
They're like the ones holding the whole thing up.
Yeah.
Like,
you know, and that's, you
like
know, that's
literally on their backs.
Probably I should be more aware of some nonprofits that are in our town. I probably should be more aware of it. And I think this show will help us reach out to individuals like that to get the message out of how we can better improve our communities too. So I think there's a lot of different avenues we can go. It's not only our personal lives, personal growth, but our community, like what's going on in the community. And I know that's what's happening to you when you go to an area. You're trying to, your travel, you know, podcast. That's what you're doing. You're not only playing, but you're trying to get to know people in that community and what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
And so,
and that's, I mean, I've been doing it for about a year now. And like just now I'm realizing what topics I gravitate towards the most when I'm just talking, and I don't really like control what I was talking really. Like for a whole year, I basically ran a podcast with no structure, probably did about 60 interviews, somewhere around there. And I just know that like, I know what it is now, you know, and I'm kind of thinking about having spin-off podcasts where it's more directly structured as well now, because I know what it is or I know how I talk in a sense, right?
Yeah, and I think you brought up that point too, just in the short period of time, just teaching you about ourselves.
Yeah,
like how we communicate.
I never in a million years thought I would be doing something like this and putting myself out there, but I want to get better at it. I want to get better at communication because that's one of the areas I feel I lack in.
Yeah.
So I just want to get better with conversation, you know, and experiencing and talking to new, interesting people.
Noble pursuit, right? And almost like checking the boxes of like, what am I afraid of, you know? And in doing so, you know what you're going to learn the most from doing, right? Like, and so I know like being in front of microphones in general was always really frightening to me early on. Like I was always the quiet kid in high school and never talked to anybody. Like
that's really hard for me to hear you say that, because that's not my
burns my ears.
Yeah, it's not my perception of you as a man, like
right?
The man that I've known.
Exactly, because it's like such a cultivation process of like, who did I want to be, and who, like, what are the circumstances that I kind of threw myself into the fire of to like mold me into a different type of person, you know?
Well, and I think you're bringing up good points about, you know, life is not stagnant. Our personality, like the core of who I am, is pretty much the same Joey, right?
Yeah.
But let's face it, I'm not the same fucking Joey that you met 20 years ago. I'm not the same Joey you met
yesterday.
5 years ago. You know what I mean? Like my thought process and how I handle myself is always evolving.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people feel like that's not okay to evolve. You know what I mean? Like, you know, to stretch yourself or be a little different or move forward. And so that's uncomfortable, right? So we're presenting, Brad brought it up. We're presenting ourselves. This might be who we are, and you might not have gotten to experience all this. You know what I mean? When you start uploading 70 hours or 200 hours of talking to people, like, oh shit, I didn't know that about these guys.
Oh,
like, you know what I mean? So you are being vulnerable in some way by connecting like this.
Yeah, I completely agree. Turning on a microphone is an entirely different, it opens up a whole different kind of avenue within yourself, as far as like, it's nonstop go. Like, it's like, we're on a show right now and this is happening.
Right, yeah.
Like,
no edits here. Right.
Yeah. Awkward pauses.
Yeah.
There's been a few of those.
Yeah.
Not in this episode, but some previous
No,
ones.
it's really, we were so excited to have you come tonight, BB. Not only do I like to talk to you off the mic, or see you play, or be a part of something that you're working on creatively.
Thank you, man.
And I really like, it's fun working with you. And I want to give you one of the things beyond all that is, like I told him when I was online looking at some more of your stuff today, and it's nice to see you I'm grateful that you used the photography that you hired me for.
Oh, yeah.
I see that sprinkled in, and
definitely, yeah.
I was able to tell him how grateful I was that he actually paid. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need exposure anymore. I need, I need to pay the bills too a little bit.
Need to eat.
Yeah, no shit. So that symbiotic relationship where we're able to do that is, I'm
definitely
very grateful for that.
Yeah,
brother.
I really like working with you too, Joe. You have a great photographer's eye. You know what you're looking for. You know where the angles are. You know where the light is.
I appreciate it. Yep.
Yeah,
I just enjoy being a part of a project too and being able to help think it through.
Yeah. Because it's like I'm allowing you to take artistic liberties because I trust what you're doing. You know what I mean? And vice versa, right? It's like this kind of thing where it's like, what are artistic choices? Like when we did that short film together, like I had never shot a film before. And like I'm just walking in fresh, like trying to memorize all these lines that I'm kind of rewriting on the way there. And I'm just like,
he
okay,
said you did really well though.
Yeah. Well, we did okay.
I mean, as far as like doing it,
being
able to say it on, you said he did.
What was your experience with that? Like, was it what you expected, or was it totally different than what you expected? Actually,
in some ways it was expected, in some ways not. Like because like right away the questions about what camera angles, like I hadn't even thought about that as an option, right? Like I have, I've when I watch movies, I have my favorite types of camera angles for different things, I guess. But then like when we're in the context of like, okay, we have 3 hours of shoot and this is the scene, and where does the camera go?
Yeah, where's the wide going to be? Where's the mid going to be? Where's the close up? Is it going to come from down? Is it going to flow with it? Is it going to, what kind of lighting are you going to have? Is it going to be, is it going to be direct lighting? Is it going to be,
And
there's
that
so
was
much
not
to production.
Where my mind was at all when I got there. Because like my mind was in my acting framework, right? Like I've never acted in anything before either.
I like that question.
Yeah. How about that editing journey that we went on?
That was a journey, wasn't it? I mean, that was a lot of fun, honestly. Like I learned a lot about editing by doing that in the trailer. Like it's just like the psychedelic, like melting, like wax that hits you in the face, like the entire time. Like it hurts. Yeah, I love it. Like I get a lot of compliments about that trailer still.
Yeah. And then the they were like oil projections.
Yeah, for sure.
Who does that?
That is SOS Lighting out of Dayton.
So they put it on a projector.
Yeah, he has oil on like a regular light projector and kind of swirls it around, puts it in there.
Gives it a nice effect.
Yeah, Billy Grober.
And that helped that psychedelic feel.
Yeah. He also did Jubileego that year. He did the light projecting on stage and everything.
I've seen it done a few times.
For the Belly Dancer in 19. Yeah, that was right before we did the movie. I think, I don't know if Steve Poltz was there that year. And then we had the Belly Dancer and the Stilts people, and we had like
nice, yeah.
And we had Billy on the light projection. Yeah, that was a great year. I'm thinking about hiring back those Stilts people. I don't know. Well, I have a bunch of ideas for music videos for this new album coming out. It's called Shake the Light Bulb. It's the new Great Grandpa BB album, and it's like I built all the songs from the ground up, where like I'm doing drums, bass, keys, synthesizers, vocals, all the textures.
So did that come out of this last 2 years of being basically grounded? Yeah. I mean, that's what happened. We got grounded as far as culturally. I mean, we've been isolated. So did that come out of that?
I mean, I there's parts of this album that I knew were coming in the back of my mind, and there's parts that I didn't know what was going to happen. Like where at the end of 2020, I started doing tons of instrumentals in a lot of different directions, kind of like what I'm doing now. They were kind of based in like movie soundtrack type of ideas though, right? But then by the time I got around to the springtime, I started doing the podcast and all that. And then I fell in love with this girl and like went down that whole rabbit hole for the summertime. And then by the time I got to October, I realized that I got to the end of all of that. And then went back and checked my phone and found all of these songs that were on it, you know. And then basically just took all those ideas, and in October I recorded all of them in 2 weeks, essentially, as kind of a therapy, I guess, you know, to kind of get out of that place where I was, you know. But like the idea of doing this album, like the way that I was doing it was already in the back of my mind. Like I wanted to do it that way in the fall.
One of the 20 projects.
Right. Yeah. Like, and it was like, there wasn't any ideas at that point. It was just like, I want to do like a rock and roll album by myself doing all the instruments, you know? But I didn't know what was going to transpire. You know, I didn't even know how I was going to write the songs or what was, you know, other than the idea that like all last winter, I was writing like 4 songs a week sometimes, just like, you know, all like any part of that song, I would be done in that same day. So I would do like, it would like be the idea of the song earlier in the day. I was just like a factory, like just, you know, like,
well, we stopped by and visit the one when you were doing that portion of it. Yeah. We were kind of around, we stopped over, you were helping them do something, brother.
Yeah,
we were probably editing or something.
Yeah, you were working on the edits, and then we came over that night, and you were wrapping up, working in the middle of working on it, and that's what you were. I think that's probably when you were doing some of that stuff
because we were dropping them in, some of them that day.
I witnessed the magical music making style
where we just drop stuff in. You're like, yo, that's it. That
works.
He's
creating scores on the fly.
Yeah.
Oh, this works.
What do you think? Yeah.
I have an idea. He runs out to the music lab and he's on the
music lab.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, just like I took the synth and just like started turning knobs, and I'm like, yep, that's it.
Will there be a section of the film where you'd be like, this needs something more?
Yeah.
And you're like, hold on, wait, I'll be right back.
Yeah, like
run out
2
and just
minutes
like
later.
on the fly make some music.
Here it is.
I'm like, oh yeah, here's the sound that I need for that part. Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm not a perfectionist by any means either. Like
that's what I like about you too. It's like kind of raw and
it's streaming consciousness in a way, right? Like I have the idea and I do it and I'm like, okay, that's the idea, it's done, and then like you just go. And there's, I don't know, like there are second thoughts sometimes, but it's like, as long as you have the article, I don't know, I don't know if it's like a weird spiritual thing that I have, you know, like where it's like, I just kind of like have faith in the thing is going to work or something like that. Because I know that if I try too hard or if I ask too many questions about something, it's like all going to fall apart, you know?
There was it's kind of like kids doing art. They don't ask the question why, and they produce some really interesting things. And there was so that's kind of, if you can kind of operate in that a little bit, it makes life a little easier sometimes. We get too perfectionist and it paralyzes us at times. And I've done that in my life. Like you have like 40 options and you're like, fuck it, I'm going to give up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not making that choice. I'm going to move on to something else right now because I can't fucking make a choice with these 40 options.
Yeah.
The information is too complex sometimes. It's more complex than it needs to be.
True. And a lot of it comes from just experience or just experimentation that you've done previously. Like, I mean, like, when I went out and did that little soundtrack thing in 2 minutes, it wasn't that I just like didn't know what I was doing. It's like that I went out there and I'm like, I fucked around with this thing enough that I'm like, oh, I can get this sound and this sound's about here. And then I turn this. Oh, wow, that's really cool. And man, that's perfect.
It's not exactly, but that's what I want. Yeah, I kind of know how that mix.
Yeah.
It's like mixing a cocktail.
We'd lay them in the track and they would line up perfect with that.
I remember that. I was there the one night where everything was lining up with the edits.
On like all the right moments.
So I can't wait to show you the music video I just put together this last week for a song called Wizard Haircut. Anyway, it's like
you were watching Harry Potter, by the way. So we got
Wizard Haircut.
I don't know. It's all like back to reality, say cool, hey, and the things that they all say. Anyway, like it's really kind of baseline song. I don't know. It's a weird song for me. It has like drum parts from like Paul Simon and like, you know, I don't know. Like I'm pulling from different things, different synths and shit. But it's fun. But anyway, I did the video in the Botanical Gardens in Denver because a random friend was like, hey, go here. And then everything canceled that day for me. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's all I know.
That's what I'm going to.
That's where I'm going, you know? So I'm like, oh, hey, I need to start shooting music videos while I'm here too. This is my last day in Denver. And then so like that was the song, and it was just kind of that's the song that I was thinking about.
So you shot this with your phone?
Yeah.
I'm
just walking around.
I know this, but I'm trying
gardens. To. Yes, I shot it with my phone, put it in front of me, and like I couldn't play the song on my phone and shoot at the same time. So I had to like listen to the song and be like, okay, this is the beat. This is how fast the song goes. And then I just mouth the words into the camera while I'm walking around. I did one long shot of the chorus, right? And it was like perfect. My lips are off. My lips are oh, it's back right on. And I'm like, oh, we'll just do a Godzilla, you know,
right?
It's like a little bit off, but you know, like
it's okay.
Yeah. I like it better this way, actually. But that's like what you were saying, like how it just like lined up perfectly. Like it was like and it did it twice, like in both choruses. It did the exact same thing, which is really weird. Like, because I did the one chorus in the one spot in the place, and the other chorus in another spot in the vicinity.
Put that as another project to revisit and see if maybe something else needs to be wrote there.
So how?
I would say 85% of it was dead on. I'm just like,
that's an A.
Right.
That's a B. I'm sorry. That's a B.
That's
right?
a B plus.
That's a B plus. Fuck, that's passing.
That's all those hours of editing.
That's fucking passing.
Yeah, I was always happy about a B plus. Yeah, I don't know. Like,
I was happy about a D plus.
Right.
What are you talking about?
All these grade structures are bullshit anyway. It's like,
look at me now, teach.
Yeah.
I still got food and a calculator in my pocket.
This 85% means 120 to me, so I don't know. I think this is way cooler because I'm going to be able to spin it in so many other like just being able to call it like the Godzilla technique is everybody already knows what I'm talking about. You know?
Well, I'm so behind on things sometimes, dude. You got to
like
break
the old like 60s, like 1950s Godzilla with like
I used to watch
translations.
Yeah, okay, I'm there. I mean, I kind of thought I was there, but I didn't know. I didn't want to be presumptuous. So I'm not afraid to say I don't know. Like some people are deathly afraid to say, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, I'm not one of those people. Fuck it. If you want to think I'm stupid because I don't know.
That's what I grew up. That's my dad would always talk about that type of thing or whatever. Like, and they had like Godzilla on these like, well, so they had these like reel to reel like 8mm tapes that they took when my dad was like a kid or whatever. And so they got this box of, you know, home movies and then took them and got them on VHS tapes. And then we watched them one day. And then it was like a thing where, we're just making fun of everything because there's like Godzilla spliced into the home movies and stuff,
really?
You know, because they were in the same box and like we didn't know what was what. Like,
yeah, nice.
Editing videos is a death trap. I sometimes I'll forget to edit podcast at all and just like do the whole run through and just not edit any of it. Just do like, this sounds about good mix here, and then just let it run and then just, you know, render it that way. I did that for a podcast with Justin Gray, and my buddy is like, he's like, yeah, I got to the point in the podcast, and you're like, hey, I gotta go take a leak, and then you're like, oh, you're gonna edit it, probably cut it right here. He's like, he's not editing it. Wow, okay, cool.
Straight
and then
through.
You come back like, you know, 2 minutes later, and you're like, I really like the trees on this property, and I'm like, wow, this is. Like, he's
Where'd
like,
he
that
go?
was my favorite part.
That's awesome.
As far as the video goes, I don't think I'm not gonna cut anything down. Just leave it straight. Cool. And then maybe just the audio tracks for like just the audio podcast. I'll probably cut it down so it's
here and there, you know.
So what he's been doing is like
visual,
going through and
put
like
some TikTok filters on my face.
Certain subjects, putting a tick in, you know, like marking it to where we're talking about maybe Jubilee, and then we talked about.
Oh right,
like,
doing like
he'll
short
break it
clips.
out. He'll break it out like that, so at least it's you know, it's marked.
Yeah, time stamps.
Yeah.
I did time stamps recently for a live album I just released, a live show, technically. I did it. I called it No Truth, Only Poetry in 3D. It was like a live radio takeover of WLKR. I did like an hour straight, no commercials, just like... It was one of my favorite shows I ever did, you know? And it was like... And I made sure to record it all myself. And just luckily, there was a guy, Devin Farkas, down in Columbus who was there like filming for a commercial spot for the Halo Live. And so I got with him, got the footage and spliced it all together. And there's like pro audio footage through the whole first part of the live video. Yeah.
Good project.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So the Halo, that's like right in Sandusky here.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's like right. Where is that? Right.
Is that the old church they turned into a?
Yeah.
What do they do there?
It's a studio / venue. Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah, it's on that street. We were looking at that blue house was on.
A lot of crazy architecture right there.
Yeah,
I lost nice homes.
I haven't been thinking about a lot of this because, like we talked about, not, what are we doing? We're not socializing like we usually do, and we aren't. I'm not, at least.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the virus, right? Like that's like. I mean, not down, to be. Yeah.
But that's the truth. It has. It's definitely has shaped us. So, like when you say the Halo, I remember when they first started, but that was around the time everything happened, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you got a really good memory, Brad. You're really good at details like details like that.
It was maybe a year or two before the 2020. I remember on opening night I was there. Did I ever tell you that story before? Where I got real drunk at opening night at the Halo Live. Okay, and I almost got thrown out, but like it worked out to be the coolest moment of the night. It was like almost the worst moment and then simultaneously the coolest at the same time.
All right, well tell us about that story. That sounds kind of fun.
Right, yeah. So I don't know, I wasn't driving, so I was just like along for the ride, and then like my Sean, he was talking about Steve Albini. Okay, so he's in Big Black, Shellac, the band, and like these different early Chicago bands in the punk movement in the 80s. And I've always been a huge fan. He produced a bunch of stuff. Anyway, I was going to go record with Steve at one point with my old band, Underground Airplane, and that never happened. And I was always really salty about that because we recorded the album, it never came out. Anyway, that's where I was. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to drink a couple more beers than I usually do. And then like rum or something got involved. Anyway, Jesus. We're in the balcony and the band is down there playing I think it's the Casket Company. And it's, and so like Steve Albini's still in my mind, right? And he had a song that I know, like I put it on like a mixtape that I have that I listen to a lot. So like in my drunken rampage, I like was just up there and like cheering and stuff for the band, and I thought that it would be really great to start singing a Steve Albini song for these guys down there, right?
Yeah, it makes sense, right?
Yeah,
totally makes sense at the time.
So I started singing this random verse, and I didn't think about what the words were before I started singing them,
just singing.
I just started being like, to the one true God above, here is my prayer. Or was that the first? Or no, I think I came in on the second verse, where it was like, him just fucking kill him, I don't care if it hurts. And then I stopped and I was like, whoa, I just said that really loud and everyone else went silent. And then so I was like, I better just keep going. So
it makes sense. Like, I'm in. Gotta ride this thing out.
I guess. Yeah. Here we are.
Let's do it.
So,
right? It makes sense, right? You gotta just keep going.
Yeah. And then got to the chorus. So I was like, kill him, fucking kill him already, kill him, and all that. And it's like, and then I felt like I was like, oh man, this was probably the very wrong thing to just like.
Yeah, it's not going like it's not
and
the
no
same.
one in the audience was like, is this guy like a psychopath
okay? Yeah.
or like, right? Then the band knew exactly what song I was singing. They knew how to play the song.
Oh.
And then they started playing it as if that was the intro to the song.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God.
It worked out.
So it's like the crazy, like, who knows this song, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. They looked at him like, this guy knows it. Let's do it. Light it up, boys. That is awesome.
The most awkward into the greatest transition.
Yeah.
And I was
you're probably getting warm, Yeah. You're like, oh, this isn't going well.
I was like, I'm getting kicked out of here for sure.
Yeah.
Like, this is not really awkward.
It's going to be a few months before I come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might even have to shave my beard and hair to get back in.
Nah, nothing like that. But, but like, I was like, yeah, I don't know. It's a little awkward. And,
That's a great story though.
Yeah, it was really weird and a lot of fun. Serendipity at its finest.
What other bands do you play with?
Currently, I'm in the Midnight Brothers, playing keys and vocals, and I am also in slow mono, band out of Vermilion with John Bellis, and I'm just playing electric guitar and synthesizers, and then officially that's it. And then I'm doing my solo project. I might be playing keys with a project, maybe not. I don't know. They told me I was, but who knows?
So like, how often are you playing now?
As far as
just live shows.
Well, I mean, not a crazy amount. Like the Midnight Brothers, we don't play a lot in general. You know, like it's like if the show's coming up like a month in advance, we'll start practicing, or like.
Well, I imagine
generally,
it's died down a little bit again.
Well, and I just haven't been booking because of everything that's going on. You know, everything's spiking right now and all that. We got the Water Bottom stage in Norwalk, but it's we did the holiday show, but it's like I'm just doing like one-offs, kind of thing right now. We did a big hardcore show in like October. Some guys from New York came out, Sworn Enemy. I guess they're pretty big, but it was cool doing sound for a band like, from New York City, from the big city.
Yeah, from the big city.
They're in my venue and I'm doing sound.
Got their instruments. They got all their instruments here.
And they got triggers on their bass drums, making it sound all clickety clack. I don't know. I'm an Americana folk musician, man. I don't deal with hardcore punk bands anymore like I used to.
Oh man.
Well, the other question I had for you, you said you had done for your podcast. Back to that a little bit. One more second is like, so you've done over 60 shows.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm sure I have.
So, what has improved? You said you have a format now, or you kind of have a thought process as to what you're doing when you go in. Like, how do you feel like from day one till now?
Oh,
like,
man.
Just name something. One thing that's improved. We don't have to go in depth or anything. But.
Right on. I mean, like, okay, so early on when I was playing shows, I'll just say, for example, I used to play with a band called Antiseptic, which was like a punk band in Cleveland. And we would play shows, and I would get angry after shows, just real angry. I think I was like 20 years old.
I cannot picture you angry.
Right. Yeah. And maybe it was just because a lot of the teen angst was still there or whatever, but like I was mad because I couldn't get definition of my sound through. I felt like no one could really hear what I was doing. I felt like it was just like a trashy, garbled mess in a certain sense, And like, I don't know what it sounded like to the audience. That's just what it sounded like to me on stage.
In your head.
Yeah, exactly. Because I couldn't hear what I was doing necessarily. And that was really frustrating. And then that made me feel like I was missing things and like not playing as well as I could. And like, there's just a lot of frustration at that time with like the sound and like ideas and trying to like really figure out what it is that I wanted to do, I guess. And
I'm sorry, I'm going to backtrack a little bit more. And then with the podcast, what do you think has gotten better with you? Like, or areas that you're focused on?
Well, I mean, like again, like just going back to the beginning of the podcast, I did no idea how to do it originally. Where like I would just basically write down a bunch of questions on a piece of paper, and as soon as those questions were done, that was the end of the podcast, And then you and me did a podcast. That was the first one that really like I hit my stride.
I was terrible. I still am. I'm getting better though, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the first time I ever hit my stride with it, and like you were getting experience with podcasts and things. So we're just like, fresh on the scene in a sense, right? Like a year ago. And
so that was the beginning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
'Cause you had only done a few before that, right?
Yeah. Maybe 2 or something like that. Like real close friends of mine that, and like I didn't know what I was doing, and it was like real just a train wreck, And well, I mean, yeah, because you figure out like you're like, oh well, maybe nonsensical surrealist questions aren't gonna be interesting.
Yeah. Maybe we'll worry about maybe.
Because I'd be like, why is potato the answer of the universe? And like, it's like yeah, I mean, those are things that are fun to say. And I thought that's what I wanted my podcast to sound like, at the time.
A universal potato head.
Yeah, like
floating through space.
Or I would say, what is the universe
on a
made
Tesla,
out of, or something?
On a
Tesla
Tesla's rocket.
Yeah, it was like dumb. It was just kind of a dumb thing to ask, I guess. I don't know. It was like there's better, bigger picture ideas out there, that you can get to more organically.
It's got to be relatable too.
Yeah,
for people to be able to.
Yeah, exactly. It's so
jarring
if you're just like saying things out of the left field all the time, and that's what long form is all about.
Please say things out of left field sometimes.
Well, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's good.
Sometimes.
But yeah, it's its own art form, and you kind of have to it's like riding a Bronco in some sense, it'll buck you sometimes, and you'll touch the microphone or something.
I know, and then you get yelled at by your co-host.
Throws you completely off topic
every day, all day.
I don't know what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah. We're pretty direct with each other after a decade of
working
with
and
me,
doing
business
with Joe. I like to give him some shit during the show.
Yeah,
because he gets very focused and intense. So I gotta kind of break the monotony a little bit.
Yep.
That's him. Now
Andy was fucking up the audio.
We're very direct with each other. Anything else you can think of you wanted to ask today, brother?
I mean, it's not really
because we're getting close. We've been figuring.
There's no
end to it, but we've been this is about where we're at on ours. About an hour and 18, 20
I don't
minutes.
even think we're an hour in yet.
Oh, we aren't?
No.
It says I think. Are we?
Just keep it flowing, man.
Man, I thought maybe we were farther along.
BB's got nowhere to go.
No, this is what I like to do. I was buckled in for 3 hours.
He'll be up till 6 a.m. in the morning.
I didn't bring my diaper. I might have to go take a leak.
Yeah,
Joe, if you wanted to go to bed early,
I'm gonna sign off here, guys. You guys finish this up and wrap it up.
I don't think that we've done an hour yet, because I can feel it when we hit an hour. And it's and then when you push to that, I can feel it when we hit about 2 hours.
You do.
Yeah.
I'm noticing that too.
Because I can see our timestamp, so I kind of know where we're at.
Well, I was looking at it too, and I think before we even started, we were at 1:15. I think it was at.
Yeah, I've been watching it,
so we're not even an hour yet.
There's plenty more things to talk about.
Well,
that
bourbon's probably you're gonna like that. That'll grab everybody.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet.
What'd you say? 96%.
Probably 180 proof, I think. That's what it actually says.
Does it say that?
No.
It's pretty damn good stuff, though, right?
I don't know.
It's Detroit. I don't know what's that. What's we got it out of Detroit. I did Justin's wrestling show.
Yeah, it's good.
And the place that he had his wrestling show was at this place in Detroit. It's like
have you ever seen
whiskey?
Justin Naki's old time wrestling.
Old time wrestling. Yeah.
Detroit City Distillery.
It's great. It's fantastic. That's their company?
That's in Detroit. That's where they had one of their shows. They do a Detroit show every year. So
yeah. They're always out here at the Norwalk Fairgrounds.
It's a good idea, though. He should start his own whiskey brand.
So we're going to have him on.
Yeah, he should.
We're going to have to get him on.
Whiskey.
Yeah. Yes.
Prohibition.
Man, I want those old-timey wrestling guys at Jubilee Go really bad. That would be really cool.
At Jubilee Go?
Yeah.
Well, contact.
We could probably talk to him and make that
Justin.
happen.
You could reach out to him and see if there's anything that could be done with that.
That'd be rad.
I think he should put on a full-out show there.
Yeah, for sure.
Right in front, right by the stage.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that would work, but
there's a flat part down.
Yeah,
like
in the back
maybe
too.
a flat part, wherever they think we put a stage.
Wherever you could put a stage up.
Exactly.
Wherever
perfect.
you could flip off the top rope.
Superfluous.
I mean, he did one at the Bellevue Fairgrounds, I think.
Yep. You were there, weren't you?
It was like some kind of fair in Bellevue. Yeah.
Yeah, they do good work. They have a little old timey band that comes with them. I think they're from Toledo. I was talking to them.
Yep.
Yeah, and they also have that couple that comes in and sings. And I feel bad that I can't see it. They're really nice also. They might be somebody, though, you could get in contact, and I think they're out of Lakewood area.
It would be fun just to book that band.
Because they do a little
I contacted a band from New Orleans today called Tuba Skinny. I don't know if they'll get back to me, and I bet it'll be too expensive if they do. But
Tuba Skinny.
Yeah, they're great. They're fantastic. They tour all over the place. But they're really, really good.
enjoy listening to the horn and
yeah. There's another band I found out about today called Brass Machine out of upstate New York that I might get a hold of.
Brass Machine.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
I saw them on a festival flyer here. They do some really cool stuff. Like I need like some kind of brass on stage. I love that aspect of a show.
A lot of energy to.
Yeah,
I always like that sound.
Definitely.
So I think the guy in that big band that plays at Justin's shows, wrestling shows.
Yeah.
I think the guy that runs it is Ragtime Rick. That's what they call it.
Ragtime Rick. That does sound familiar. Does sound familiar.
It might be like Ragtime Rick and I can't remember.
I think if you go to his site, he'll have everybody listed on there.
I'm sure.
He's really good about promoting other people, right?
Cool.
Justin? Yeah, he's always got everything listed and everything.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yeah, he's an interesting person. I enjoy him a lot.
Yeah.
Really intelligent and just a good person all the way around. I like that he provides that to kids. That's there's no cussing. It's fun for kids to go see a Norwalk and everything. So it's really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
I could see you playing it in his shows.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd pull it off.
Like your one-man band thing that you were doing?
Yeah. That would be a lot of fun. I feel like it would be like a real niche kind of a thing, like, I don't know if I could, like, it would be great if the full band was there and I could just play along with the full band. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or just like in between.
You should just show up.
Right. Yeah.
Like you did at that stage, just kind of like inch in, and just get your drums. Sit down.
Locate myself right, just far enough away from the stage that they can't stop me. Right.
You could tie them into the story somehow. I'm sure.
So I'm just busking, man. I don't know what I'm doing right now. What are you doing? What is old timey wrestling?
What does it mean to be? What does it mean to be hired?
My horse knows the way home. I'll find my own direction. Just start talking to non sequiturs. We're like, we're not really sure where this guy came from or what time period.
Why he has a horse.
Yeah.
And why is the horse smarter than him at this point? He can get home.
I'll trade you 5 cases of gunpowder. And this horse. I don't know, like it's cool. Like the whole old-timey throwback thing is very like good on people's nerves, I would say. I think which is why it's popular. There's like such a huge shift to technology right now. Everything's going so fast for everyone, and
what's a counterculture too? When you look at that over the years of watching him put that together, I agree with you. There's probably other stuff that's under the surface.
Kind of a counterculture.
It's interesting to watch the people that come in the different locations and as that has evolved for him and how he's put it together.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Any counterculture like that is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Like rockabilly or like I was telling Brad, like guys fixing cars and meeting and sitting in a parking lot or punk music or name it.
Right.
Like there's a lot of different countercultures out there
happening so fast that the people building the stuff don't even know what they're building yet in a lot of cases.
And I'm sorry. So what would be a modern day counterculture? You know what I mean? Like those are some of the ones I've named that are older, but like that's kind of interesting.
I would say like. Especially after like the 90s shock value thing in the early 2000s, like emo, depressive darkness kind of thing that happened. Like there was like a real like big resurgence of like family friendly type of wholesome type of things that started happening. Which is weird, I guess, like to say that would be counterculture, but it is in a sense that, I don't know, like, everyone wears black hoodies now or something, right? But like no one dresses up.
Well, and I seen kids with emoji life preservers or rafts. Like you look at that too. It's kind of interesting how an age bracket will start doing like totally. It's mainstream. You know what I mean? But it's still like a part. Like you and I are probably not going to go out and buy an emoji. Not that we're not opposed to riding a piece of poop, a poop emoji. I
don't know what you're talking. Is it there's emojis
so like emoji?
On a raft?
Yeah, so they have like the hard eyes or something. So you see different age brackets doing these cultural things that are,
Yeah,
that you and I wouldn't do.
It's of their era in a large sense, like no one's done this stuff before. And plus they they have like large emotionally charged reactions to things like that too. Like when you see somebody sent you like the heart eyes, emoji guy, you're like, oh wow, this person like loves to look at me, or like
yeah, right.
my
That's
idea
hard eyes
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's kind of a good feeling, and it sets off chemicals in the brain,
So those, like the soul time wrestling and things like that. It's interesting when you see like a group of individuals that enjoy that and kind of flock to it.
Yeah.
And I really think when you're developing music, that's what it's about, is finding people that connect with your music, right? You want them to kind of,
right.
You want them to, you want that resonating with them.
Yeah, and music's another one of those things that's always had like a just storied history, where like we've all kind of like, we know the basic forms of music and how it affects us and why it affects us, and music hasn't necessarily changed, at all necessarily. You could almost argue that music, in the sense that like, I always think about it if you're thinking about it in terms of like really primitive music and really like, baseline stuff, you cut everything away. All it is like humans getting together, having a party around a fire, and there are drums and flutes, and that's about it, and voices, essentially.
I talked to a person that was into music, and she was doing her doctorate, and they were talking about how music tells the story of the culture, right? So
right.
Looking at and going back as far as you can on each culture to figure out where those folk, the story, the party, the gathering, telling the story. So that's kind of how I see it from the limited knowledge I have.
Yeah, and obviously there's tons of different types of music for different emotional characters, and like there's the tavern stuff where everyone's stomping their feet on the wooden floor of the tavern, and that's very primal in its own sense, right? But there's also classical music that was trying to be more sophisticated and having these like huge chord progressions that no one had even really attempted before, because you never had a piano that was all in tune, let alone, like it's like, oh well, you can play out of E out of this piano, but that's about it, or whatever,
I think the first time I ever felt a floor rock like that was in Columbus at Chelsea 508 or 805. It was a place down there, and I could be wrong on the address, but it was Ween.
Oh, okay.
And their albums are always different. It's one of the things I liked about it. It'd be heavier, be lighter, be folky, be all over the place. And I remember being in that place, and you could feel everybody dancing, and that whole floor was just shaking and pounding, like you were saying, in that tavern music, right? And so depending on the time that you're in, 1700s probably looks a little different than 2000, but the format is still the same.
1983, Bowie's Let's Dance. I just listened to that album last night, right? And it's like, it's a great album, but it's very simple. It's like very straightforward in everything that it's doing, like it has a beat, it's making you dance exactly the way that you think that you want to dance to it, and like enough said, done, like I think later in the 80s Bowie started trying a little too hard. I'm kind of exploring 80s Bowie right now.
Tear it up.
I keep seeing you look at me.
No, I'm waiting for you to say something about Bowie.
No, I'm letting BB talk.
Okay,
go ahead. Continue.
Oh yeah. Well, I recently came across this quote. I don't know if he said it or not, but supposedly Bowie said that Pretty Hate Machine, the Nine Inch Nails album from 1989, is like one of the best albums of all time. And that kind of like, I was like, what? Like that completely broadsided me when I heard that.
And why does he feel that way, or how does he feel that way? Yeah.
Yes. And then I knew that Bowie had collaborated with Trent Reznor on a project in the 2000s. They did a song together called I'm Afraid of Americans. Okay. But I started thinking about 80s Bowie, right? Like, and like where he was in 89, like when that album came out, or even the 90. Like, and so I'm listening to 83 Let's Dance, and I'm like, okay, like this is where he's at, a few years before. And then I read a couple of the reviews of the other albums where I guess were big flops. And in 87, Bowie was quoted in saying that was his least favorite album. that he ever wrote, and that was like his 18th or 19th studio album at that point, right? And it's like 19 studio albums.
Yeah, so he's burned out
by 87. Yeah, right.
He's burned out.
And then he hears Nine Inch Nails and this album, and it's like super dark album, right? Like it's very drum machine driven, very synthesizer based. But I went back and I re-listened Pretty Hate Machine a couple nights ago, and like the emotional, I don't know, contextualizations of like the archetypes that he was dealing with poetically throughout that whole album it just makes you feel so much. Like I was huge in the Nine Inch Nails in the late 90s, right? But like especially with the Fragile album when that came out in 1999, I bought that the same week it came out and like listened to it all throughout high school. It was like right when I started high school was when that came out. Anyway, I'd always listened to Pretty Hate Machine, but I always had this like weird love-hate relationship with it because it wasn't the Fragile. The Fragile was, or even like the Downward Spiral or Broken. I don't know. All of those first 4 albums are just a wide spectrum of sounds that he did at that time period. And
it goes back to that change we expect. Sometimes
that's true too.
Especially with artists and musicians, it's one of the reasons I gravitated towards Ween, and there's other bands like them that change, but they were kind of in my view, they're one of those kind of extreme bands that you'd like, oh shit, what are they going to produce this time? So we expect a certain quality or design from an artist,
and with Ween, you expect the unexpected,
right? That's part of their if they were to came out every album like that, well, that's not what I expect anymore, right?
Yeah.
So
whereas Nine Inch Nails is industrial rock. That's what he always does that in a Nine Inch Nails.
And the other thing about gratifying somebody else is that when you work with somebody, you have a tendency not to see the downside of something. So maybe because they work together, he was able to say that, or maybe it was one soundbite of 1,000.
Yeah.
And it just, here we are, he's dead. We can't ask him, right? But maybe he really didn't 100% feel that way, but on that day he felt that way.
That's true. Right. Yeah, maybe he just listened to it.
I'm just
really
throwing,
it.
just playing, devil's advocate here a little bit on it because,
yeah.
I've said things where I'm like, it's not quite how I feel about it once I've gone back to that quiet space. Now we're going back an hour ago is like we talked about having that downtime. And we've also talked before we got on air here is like, this is permanent on some level. Once we upload it, we can delete it, but for the most part, we're not going to. We're going to put it up to show the progression of either getting better or worse or archiving what we're doing for our own, for everybody.
I mean, that being said, Pretty Hate Machine's it changed everything in the music in the 90s, I think.
So maybe,
in a large spectrum. Like, it was like a sea change from the 80s to the 90s was like that album,
Well, and maybe he could see that, and that's the other thing is that when you're in the industry at that level of performing and collaborative work and being exposed to other people.
This is entirely different than anything that's been done before this point.
So maybe you see that and you're like, oh man, this, whether I like the genre or not, this is changing things, right?
Yeah.
So talent does that.
And honestly, I think even poetically, I think Bowie connected to it too on certain levels, because I think it was saying things that he couldn't say. I think it was saying things that he didn't have the experience to say, but he was able to connect with them. Like I remember I went back and listened to it. I knew every word on that whole album. I forgot that I used to even listen to it, but I could sing along to every word, like I knew them like in the back of my mind, Well,
and that music becomes such a big part of who we are at the time when we're listening to it too.
Yeah.
And it brings us back to that connection. It's funny what you forget though, huh?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I stopped listening to that album on purpose. Because it was really dark, like terrible lie, your head like a hole, black as your soul. I'd rather die than give you control.
Yeah. So what you're putting in all day long, do you really want to focus on that? Yeah.
But they were all anthems, they were all like stadium rock anthems. Weezer's really good at stadium rock too. They have the whole anthem mentality. Queen was like one of the first big anthem rock bands, where you could just scream every word like to the band while you're there or whatever.
You're participating, you're in it.
Yeah. I like those type of bands a lot, I guess, like I generally don't write in that direction though, which like I'm thinking about lately. I'm like, I want to write in those ways. I want to, you know, like what makes this an anthem, you know?
Well, in the 80s had a lot of that happening too.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, there was
that's true.
push pull with the audience kind of thing, you know, where you see more and more of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's at least because I grew up in the 80s, so
Right on. Yeah.
you know,
yeah.
like you had, of course, you had Bangers Ball, and you know, you just had all these, you know, bigger than life bands and every, you know, Coliseums were
a lot of hair metal and all that too.
But it was,
and
Coliseums were being packed; they're full.
Man,
you know,
I mean, Alice Cooper, right? Like that guy, like owns live shows. Like that show will continue on for at least, I don't know, for a long time after he dies. There will still be an Alice Cooper show happening. You know, like. Well, and he doesn't even have to be there anymore. He constructed it so perfectly.
That's the other thing too, is not all performers are live performers.
Right. That's true. That's
more true today than it's been in any other era of music where we're recording on some kind of format.
Why do you think so?
Because we engineer music, because we can tweak music, we can tweak audio to come up on stage and to lay it out. And Now, we've always had artists that can do that.
The barrier to entry as far as music production is so much lower.
Yes.
That you can just like stay in your bedroom all day, make music. You know, you don't have to be in front of anybody or talk to anybody about it, essentially.
Yeah. A live performance is a much different beast, and also have, you know, it's not just all about the equipment and setting it up. You can take somebody with an acoustic guitar and they're either a live performer or they're not. Yeah. You can take that another person that is not a live performer like that, and he can go in the studio and they can produce something beautiful, and you're going to buy it and you're going to put it on your and listen to it. Yeah. But you put them on stage to go live, and you're like, I don't know if Johnny's going to make this one. You know what I mean? Like,
I guess. Do you know Don Van Fleet, Captain Beefheart?
No.
60s, 70s band. They were like one of the weirdest bands. Don Van Fleet was best friends with Frank Zappa, and they grew up in the same neighborhood as children.
Oh, geez, wow.
And they like hung out, listened to blues records all day, you know, and critiqued them together. Like that was the duo between Don Van Fleet and Frank Zappa.
Interesting.
Right?
I don't know that name.
Yeah, and so Don Van Fleet was real afraid. Had real bad stage fright. And so he would make these intricate, really kind of out there, off timing key signatures, like weird stuff, you know, musically. And then when he got on stage, he would have like panic attacks sometimes, or he would sometimes he just wouldn't have his shit together at all. Like I guess Tom Waits played a show with him at one point, and he was like, and Tom Waits had his shit down. You know, Tom Waits is a live performance guy.
Yeah, he's theatrics.
He lives as if he's always on the stage.
Really, yeah. I don't know much about him, but I listen to his music, and I have over the years.
Or just as like, even like his interviews are completely the same as his music. Like it's all just one shtick. You know, it's like, well, I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy. You know, like do I need anything? Maybe just $20.
Richie Havens was in Stuart, Florida. I went and seen him at a small little joint. It was a local theater, and he's a great storyteller.
Nice.
He's dead now, but
Richie Havens, you say? I have an album of his.
His stories were longer than his songs sometimes.
As they should be.
Yeah.
The stories, as he's telling the story, is also a story.
And he was able to be political without being offensive.
Yeah.
He would intelligently lead you to think differently. Like that's what my only experience was with him, but I was like, holy shit.
That's a talent. Being able to talk and provide context for gigantic ideas and make them sound simple and accessible.
He did, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I don't know. Any hot button issues you guys want to talk about? I mean, there's pretty much.
I hear you're writing a novel. Is that top secret? Are we allowed to talk about that?
Oh, my novel that I'm writing? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Am I writing
You're
a novel?
You're writing a novel, right? Is it on hold?
That's a tough question.
It's one of the 21 projects.
Right. Yeah, because I gave it to a guy to read recently.
He stole it. You want to?
Did you
After we're done
finish
with this, you want to go get him?
I gave it to him like.
So you actually wrote it?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's
yeah.
like
Well,
complete.
I wrote a book in 19. It was a sci-fi novel, and it goes into organic electronic components making artificial intelligence and like epigenetic on and off switches.
No, I don't even know what epigenetic means.
Okay, yeah.
So simplify it for me.
Yeah. Oh, well, epigenetics is a branch of biology that talks about switches in your DNA or RNA.
Okay.
And like for your environmental different impacts that have on your person, will flip different switches on and off.
Okay.
In the skin, for example, right, there are different switches for different tones that your skin will become based off of how much melanin is in your skin, based off how much sun you're exposed to, and not just you.
So personally. I could be like a cuttlefish in this book. Or if I stood next to the wall, it would change colors.
Could be, right? Yeah, that's like a chameleon approach to it. Like, yeah. So there's things like that exist in the human body, right? And so I was kind of extrapolating different possibilities with those and the Twilight Zone-esque implications of such.
So you gave this book
to my buddy over in Kent to read because he kind of helped write it with me. He was talking to me on the phone all the time. So like a lot of his isms, things that he says ends up in the book as well, because he's an interesting talker, but he's not the writer, so to speak. But I was pulling from him. I was pulling from like H.P. Lovecraft. And I was also like, I devised this narrative where it was like the one scene would tie to the next scene, and it would just like it was for the whole first half of the book. It was like you're going up in this like you're in the space station, and then one of the guys skydives down to Earth, and then so it just follows that skydiving progression down to Earth, and then he meets up with his girlfriend. They go to this cafe. A huge fight ensues, and then that breaks out into this car chase, and then like that type of thing. And then it's just like one thing leads to its next, but it's all one narrative, switching viewpoints from one main character to the next main character. That was very hard to write since I've never written a novel before, right? Because like I would go like 10 pages or 5 pages of writing and then have to completely rewrite the outline to match what I had just written, because like I went a little off the rails, and every time I just gave it room to move, and so I'd have to constantly keep adjusting to it
to bring it back to a linear thought process.
So, yeah, because like I had an aim, I had a goal where I was going, and I never actually got there. And I don't even remember what it was that I was trying to say with the book, but like in essence, I wrote like 180 pages trying to get to the spot that I never really got to. But it was a story. It's kind of like this sci-fi action Twilight Zone-esque thing, like there's like band cameos.
Did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, it was a blast. I had a great time writing it.
So you're kind of making it up as you went. It wasn't like all planned out and kind of.
Yeah, I mean,
it was kind of like you had a starting point and then you had an ending point, and then kind of improvising what was in between. It's kind of.
Do you remember when he went to the bathroom? In his podcast, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Feeling something like
I'm going to go do that because I didn't wear my diaper.
Oh, fuck, Joe.
Yeah,
put me on the spot now.
It's all good. Yup.
Yeah, so.
Now we're down to 2-man podcast.
2-man.
It's a lot different than a bobsled team.
That's what I've been waiting for.
In a bobsled team, the weight differential really throws us all off. But in a podcast,
So what? So like, is your book? Are you not going to release it too?
I am releasing the short.
You got to release it.
I'm releasing that first. I did both those things in 19, by the way.
They're both the same year.
Yeah. There was a lot going on that year.
Well, was that the year you stopped over?
Yes.
After your trip from
Massachusetts. That's where I wrote the book.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I took 4 months at the beginning of 19, wrote the book, got back, saw you, and you're like, let's do was it what kind of house movie or something, short film
that I was talking about?
Yeah, just like a really like off the wall grindhouse film or something you were talking about wanting to do at the time.
I don't even remember, dude.
And then I was like, I'll write a script, and you're like, okay, and I was like, cool, and I wrote it, and then I sent you the third draft of that script.
Oh yeah.
And then I wrote a couple others after that, but then and then we shot it by the end of the year, So, but it was really easy to write because I had already written that whole novel at the beginning of that year. So I was still writing the second draft of the novel all that summer. The problem, the hitch, was the festival Jubileego that year, completely took me away from all my writing, and I was never really able to grasp back the whole concept of the novel, because the novel's so big. It's you can't fit it all in your brain at once. You're working on one section, you don't remember the section that happened before or all of the sections.
Did he have
down
4
the
buttons
line.
buttoned or 3?
What's that?
Did he have 4 buttons buttoned or 3? Was it?
Yeah, it was such a monumental type of a novel, and it's probably not as good as I'm trying to make it out to be, right? But it's
that's what all the.
I've never read anything like it.
That's what all the greats say.
I was trying to write something that I wanted to read, that I didn't have,
Yeah, you didn't write it to make shit. You wrote it to get the experience and try to do something.
Yeah.
So, you know how many people have not wrote 180 pages?
That's true too, right?
Okay, so
it definitely
to uplift you a little bit, to say,
I wrote that in emails, I think.
I bet you have. I bet you have.
So far, right? I was hitting about 2,000 words a day for 4 months, right? And that's including rough draft, 2 final draft, outline, and all, plus I was keeping a journal at the same time, and I don't know. It was a lot of writing. A lot of writing.
Yeah, I want to read it.
Just trying to stay sane and happy and, grounded. It was a task.
Well, I'm glad you had.
So is it going to be a paperback or hardback?
Paperback writer.
Oh, son of a bitch. I did it finally, Joe.
Man.
I did it.
Fucking whiskey on the couch.
I'm known for this. So.
Cup holders on that couch.
I told him,
Brad
man.
style.
I told him.
At least
that shit's going to spill.
At least there's a lot of alcohol and it will evaporate fast.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's mostly alcohol. So, yeah.
At least it's a lot of alcohol. That's the one positive about it.
Whoops.
Run a car off of that stuff.
Well, beats all the coffee that was spilled on this.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
It wasn't you.
Clarification. So that's really cool that you were able to knuckle down and do that much. That's quite a bit.
There was a point, you asked my buddy, and I was just making up a new language partway through. I also wrote not to sound crazy, but I wrote an album. That's for the photo shoot that we did when I got back in 19. I had written an album, and that's what the photo shoot was for, I think. Was for
I didn't know what it was for. You called me up. You might have said that, but
I called that album Worcester, Massachusetts, just because, or Worcester. The actual town's called Worcester. That's how you pronounce it in real life. But I always called it Worcester before I got there, so that's what I named the album. I don't know.
Yeah, I enjoyed that shoot we did that day.
Yeah,
I think we got some good imagery out of that.
But I used the cover art from that shoot.
I don't know if I've ever seen it.
Oh yeah, I had never made physical copies of that particular album.
But okay, go ahead.
But it was just from the bottom of the stairs with the bridge and the music conservatory area of the campus.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good shot. There was a lot of good shots that we got.
I enjoyed the one in front of the old theater there that Danny DeVito saved that theater.
Yeah, that's awesome.
They were going to close that down, and I think one of his relatives were going there. Yeah.
That the one in Lorraine?
No, the one in Oberlin.
Oberlin, okay.
It was a little small, and he donated enough money to the college for them to acquire that or keep that, and then they kept it. And
how was he connected?
I think either one of his sons or daughters went there, but I don't
okay.
like, I don't know. Like that was all secondhand story. I've never actually talked to anybody that physically received the check, but that's what I was told. So
I love Danny DeVito.
I need to get back on It's Always Sunny.
Yeah, I know. Right?
I was watching it for a while, and then I kind of stopped watching it, and the show is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Like every episode's.
It's so ridiculous. It broke
hilarious.
So many molds, like just existing as it does in nature. Like
Joe's been on his Rick and Morty kick.
Nice.
Yeah, that's why I take my lunch break every day, and then in the evenings I've been putting it on.
Oh, geez, Rick! I can't believe we're watching this TV show right now.
Yeah.
Shut up, Morty! This is the goddamn best TV show.
I hate you too. Let me make this clear for you. I hate you also equally. I hate you.
The one you were watching the other day is he said something about his arms being broken.
Oh, he said, I fucking love this one, man. So he's he's like bragging about himself, but he's not really. But it's like you can see where he's going. He goes, don't jerk yourself off, or don't jerk yourself or break your arm jerking yourself off. Okay, I love that.
This guy gets it.
I'm keeping that because at some point, someday, I'm gonna drop that, and they won't know what's going on.
I think it was the first season where they had the interdimensional cable television, where they had the two brothers. Do you remember the two brothers? It's just two brothers in a van.
Yes, yeah,
and they're driving. Yep. And then a comet comes out. And then
back to more important. Like I don't know what they do, but they go back to more important.
And then there's a sombrero. UFOs start landing made out of Mexican sombreros, and they had weapons made out of tomatoes. But that's not all. There were old ladies coming down the hill with then attack cats. Just two brothers and alien invasion.
And back to the main character, the two brothers. Yeah, I think it's how they do it. Yeah, they what a great. I mean, I don't get offended easily, so I can see where people wouldn't like the show, right? But I love that it's so brilliantly wrote.
I really
if they can't take a joke, Joe, right?
How people don't like the show, but
I can't understand. I understand. Well, I understand where people are at. You can't go play that at church, okay? Most people at church are not going to like that.
I don't watch it with other people, I guess, very often that have sensibilities that are sophisticated to be.
Well, I just think you're uptight if you can't laugh a little bit. That's how I look at it.
If you can be mentally injured by a television show, I mean, I understand. I guess there's different shows that I watch that I'm not really there for at certain times. I guess I'm like, this is kind of this is too dark. I'm gonna watch this later at night.
Well, and I wouldn't want my 5-year-old watching the show.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't want them. Yeah. I'm still navigating through.
I don't have any kids. The whole concept to me is foreign.
Yeah. Me too. So but you can imagine, a 5-year-old probably shouldn't watch it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's probably true.
It's probably a good idea.
Yeah, they are watching it.
There are some households that are watching it.
Probably way worse than that.
Yeah,
I don't know. But
I'm sure.
I remember I was with one of my ex-girlfriends I went to the movie theater watching Team America.
Nice.
And some lady brought her little kid in with her. No. She was probably 6 or 7 maybe. Everyone was giving her shit. She's like, do you not realize what this movie is?
Yeah. You didn't.
And then she sat in there. She didn't leave. She just stayed.
Oh man.
And I think the sex scene came up.
So what's more uncomfortable, watching the kid watch it or the movie right at that point?
Yeah, so then the sex scene came up. And she's sitting in there with her kid, and then eventually she just walked out.
Yeah, well, yeah. Man, she just sat there a little too long.
She's looking at it. Well, this looks like a cartoon.
Yeah, she
got misled.
It is confusing, though, nowadays, because you're like, oh, I don't know who Trey Parker and Matt Stone are right now.
Yeah, so, I mean,
if you do.
I could see how it could happen.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It'd be like walking into the Book of Mormon being Mormon, right? And you're like, oh, here's a theatrical play about Mormons. I'm going to love this right now.
Yeah. No, you're not.
Wait a minute. I feel like they are being sarcastic.
This is uncomfortable now.
Yeah.
I paid to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. This is not what I thought it was at all. No warning.
At all.
Yeah.
So what about your so you went to Colorado?
Oh yeah, that was a great trip.
Tell us about that. Like, how was that?
Well, I did 15 interviews in 7 days, and I took a train out to through Chicago, stayed at the station, and then went to Denver. Got there in the morning, and then hit Red Rocks, hit interview up to Leadville, which is 10,000 feet altitude. Met some interesting people in like a 5,000 population town, real small town. Like, woke up with a headache from the altitude sickness and all that. Like, saw a band maybe break up. I'm not really sure. I was at their rehearsal like that night, you know, like shit got out of hand, and I'm like, I'm not a part of this. This is
I just got here.
Yeah. Are we still doing the interview tomorrow though, man? Like, no, we're not doing it tonight at all. Okay, well, but we ended up getting it done. He found another guy for me in Salida. Everything was like so serendipitous. Like, nothing beyond the first day was planned, right? So like, I went in there kind of blind. Like, I had contacted most of the people before I got there. Some people I was just picking up as I was there, you know. But it all just went perfect, smooth, as far as just like, oh man, I'm in Leadville, and then now I'm just gonna go down Salida, and that's like perfectly setting me up to go to Colorado Springs and then up to Boulder. It was just like a big circle that I did.
And what are you recording on?
Like, when you're traveling? Phone, and like, as far as my travel outfit goes, I just had like a little stand about that tall, and for my phone, and then just a little hand held recorder, and that's it. I had like a little light, you know, that I packed with me too. But yeah, I mean, real like travel sized production crew thing kind of
simple.
going
I was just curious, like, what you're.
Yeah, I had to get that recorder, but that was the only extra piece of equipment that I needed.
Yeah. So who were the people that you interviewed? Like, what kind of what were they doing?
Well, a variety of things. They were mostly just friends of friends from around here. So like, I put out the word, "Hey, I'm going to Denver. Does anybody know anybody there?" Because I don't. I had one contact through my cousin out there, and I had two contacts. Only one came through. Anyway, but then I put out the word, and I got tons of people got back to me about it, about friends or relatives that they had out there, and then some of those people even got a hold of me, or I even got like a phone call from a friend who was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm going to Denver tomorrow," and they're like, "Oh, we know people," and I'm like, "Okay, great." And then so that was like the first one that I did, was just completely like, on the train ride on the way there, I'm getting a hold of that dude's daughter, and we're like, "Hey, he said that you knew these guys," and you know, like, okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna get a hold of him right now and see if he can do a thing tomorrow morning. You know.
So how'd you travel when you were there?
I rented a car.
So you would bounce?
Yeah. Because I figured once I started realizing all the locations that I needed to hit within a week time frame, I'm just like, there's no way possible I can't, you know. And plus, I was like, luckily, like, the majority of the people were super cool with me just staying at their places too, you know. So it was, I had to get a hotel room a couple nights, but otherwise I was either sleeping on the train or at friends' houses or interviewers or whatever, you know, interviewees. And so, yeah, that worked out really well that way. And just, you know, made some really quick friendships, and just like some people, like personalities that I recognized as old friends, or that I knew how to talk to, like friends that I knew already, you know?
Yep.
And you're just like, I've known this guy for 10 years. Like, cool. Like, we're right here. We're back at it again, you know, like, and it was super cool that way.
I think I kind of understand what you're saying there.
Yeah.
So who are some of the most interesting people that you met there?
I mean, honestly, I loved all of them a lot. Yeah, because like the first one, the guy worked at Tesla, went to a piano instructor next, and then I interviewed a lady, I forget what she did. And then like, I went down to Salida, and that guy, we talked for 3.5 hours that same day. And we just talked about philosophy, spirituality.
I caught that. Yeah, that was. You had a banana shirt on that day.
Oh yeah, we were watching that today.
Yeah,
was that today?
That was a different one. Are you talking about Nick Paradox? That was in Carolina.
And you just met him though too, right?
Yeah. I met him when I was down there for sure. Like, he was at the pottery shop when I was down there, And yeah, that was an interesting conversation. But yeah, about the guy in Salida I had just met, I had just found out about the night before too. And then it just so happened to work perfectly en route where I was going.
So back up, you said you talked to somebody at Tesla. He worked at Tesla?
Yeah, he just worked at Tesla. And
so that's uploaded right now?
Or will it's not up yet.
Okay.
That was the first interview I did when I was out there though. And so that was really cool. I was able to talk about the new, I forget what they're called, 8620 batteries or whatever they're called, where basically they're just super fat batteries. But have you heard about these tabless batteries? That it's like a new patent that Tesla just got. Where basically the way that it works, the way that a normal battery works, right, is it has like a coil of like material. And so from the cathode to the anode, you have to go through that entire coil, right? That's the distance of the travel of the electron from one spot to the other spot, okay? And that's why they have designed batteries to be real thin and long, so that coil can just go real quick, right? So you have a real small distance to travel. The ingenious thing that they did now, which was incredibly obvious when you think about it, is that they just took the tops of those coils and made them into a tablature type of a shape, so they could just fold over the tabs on each other. So the distance from the electron from the center of the coil out to the middle, is minimal now. It basically, you can make them super fat for a ton more energy density per battery, right? But with way less distance to travel. And it was like, wow, that was a genius idea, Honestly, when I was doing the podcast, I had no idea what that even meant until I just found that out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, you go back. That's a process. You're learning from other people. Like, there's so many things on this planet. How are you going to know everything?
I went prepared to ask him, but he didn't know about it either. So I was like, oh, well, damn, I guess. But, that's what they are, is basically the distance to travel between the cathode and anode is a lot less, essentially.
We purchased the TV for the business recently for color grading and showing work and stuff.
Yeah.
And the remote that came with it was solar.
Oh, wow.
So Samsung's making the solar, and Brad got in the red the other day about the new technologies coming out for the remotes, and that was interesting. It was like what'd you say? Vibration?
Yeah, they're using Wi-Fi signals to charge.
I was gonna guess,
charge it now.
Sure.
And there was
Wi-Fi
another
to charge it.
Wi-Fi signals. And there was something else too.
The vibration.
Was it the vibration?
There was they were trying to, so like the same technology that would be used for knowing like which way your phone is going and all that. Maybe something. And don't quote me on this, but that vibration. So that thing would vibrate, creating the recharge, almost like you would for cranking up, like a crank, right?
Yeah.
And so,
generator.
To me, it's just like, these are no-brain things, but it did say in there's a stat in there, and I don't want to say it today because I didn't store it, but how many batteries that remote control saves by doing a solar charge.
Yeah, definitely.
And how hard is it? We leave it on our table. It's enough light.
It's like a calculator, like early solar calculators in the 70s, right? Like,
just makes sense.
It's the exact same type of device too. Really.
Yep.
My grandfather told me when he was a kid in Idaho, the mail trucks used to be electric.
Okay.
And he got scared they were so quiet. They'd come up behind you and you'd be riding your bike out in the middle of nowhere and you wouldn't even hear them.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. We think of electric cars as something new, and maybe they've gotten better, right? They were able to go farther and all that. But what were you going to say, Brad? Sounded like you were going to say something.
I wasn't going to say anything.
I didn't know if I stopped on you.
Nope.
Yeah, electric cars have come a long, long way, really quick.
Joe, I know you have a lot to say.
I don't, but I was thinking
of it.
Well, I'm trying to keep it
going. It's not a bad thing, though.
Jesus.
It's not a bad thing. I'm not giving you shit.
Wish this guy would just kick me in the nuts sometimes instead of beating me down verbally.
1900s,
no,
I
admire it.
Back in the early aughts, my grandma would say you were tattooed with a phonograph needle.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting though. Like all the changes we've seen just in 15 years or 20 years, and I'm thankful to be living at this time.
Yeah, it's wild. It's so wild.
To sit at your house and record your own music. Come on, bro.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
That's stuff that
it's
wouldn't have happened
dream,
in the
When I started a recording studio in 2006, and it was insane to me then, And like, yeah, and like no one knew how to do it necessarily. Like I had a lot of business just because it's like, you have a recording studio? It's like, well, yeah, it's not that hard to do. You know, like,
meanwhile, you put in thousands, a lot of hours.
Yeah, for sure. I had a degree in music tech at that point. Associates or whatever, but it was like,
that's so exciting though. So you got the, you got to, like for us to sit here too, Brad. It's so cool. We sit right at our house. We edit our photos. We do video. We look at audio. We can go through and we can, to me, it's mind-boggling the things that we're able to do now that we couldn't do even 30 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Like you're saying, no, you didn't have a degree in it, but you were able to figure it out through, and now it's even easier.
I did have a degree in it, actually.
Did you really? Did you really have it?
Yeah. I
didn't know he actually went to MIT.
Yeah. So what was your
music?
What was your degree in?
It was theoretical music technology. Where like,
where'd you go?
Take brain waves and turn them into sound. No, I just went community college down in Terra over in Fremont there.
Yeah, so it's really interesting to be able to have those capabilities.
Yeah, it's a really cool science. Really, I mean, it's not just an art. Like it is like, how do waveforms work? How does phase cancellation work? How does how does reverb blur the lines? What is anti-aliasing when you're talking about each digital node in a waveform? Like how many pixels can you use to draw out a waveform to make it sound more analog or smooth out? Anti-aliasing is something I learned back in 1995. I was huge into like video game design, and I knew that meant that you're smoothing out the polygons, in the Nintendo 64 design, like in the early 3D models and stuff, And
we're talking about like mathematically, when we're looking at design work, we're looking at vector images where they're smoothed out like this. Mathematically, they can be scalable, and so now, marrying those two technologies together,
and now it's a whole different ball game still, because we have so much bigger files and so much more information for those files. It's a completely different thing than it was in 95 and even in 2005. I like in 95, I looked up my old computer the other day to see like the specs on it.
Yeah, that's fun to do. Huh?
And the hard drive in that computer had 700 megabytes.
Yeah.
The whole hard drive.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I didn't know specifically, but I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because my father was into computers.
Okay.
And I didn't give a shit about computers.
Yeah.
So Dad's like, yeah, computers. And I'm like, yeah, cool, all right,
Yeah.
And so we would dabble in it, but I had no clue where we're going. And he really could see it. He's 70 now, but he was trying to push us down that path.
Yeah.
And I just did not grab on quick enough, but I remember because we talk about it every once in a while about how the processing difference now, compared to what.
Oh my God. Right. Yeah. I was always way into computers as a kid. I was a big nerd, like I remember in 2000 when 1 gig hard drives came in, and we're all like, oh my God, 1 gig hard drive. Like you're never going to even be able to fill it up. How can you have that much information?
Yeah.
Remember in college those
thumb drives?
Discs? No, those.
Oh,
the hell are they called for the disc. Macs that we popped into the Macs? We had the Mac. Oh
shit, dude!
The towers.
Yeah.
Remember they had the Macs that had the clear.
Yeah, I do remember covering. That. And they had
those little discs that you.
Yeah, they were like
what they were called.
The mini discs.
The mini disc, but they were like the floppy, and then they were the hard ones.
It had a name though. It had some kind of name.
Yeah. So
we were using those. I still had one. It was like
zip discs.
Yes,
discs.
That's what it was.
Okay.
Yep.
And it was like a couple megabytes.
I know my nerd shit.
Yeah.
I forgot all about those, Brad.
Yeah, that was like a year.
But they didn't last very long. Yeah. I know. But that's what we were using.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Well, that's the thing too. Is like things were changing.
So quick. There was like laser discs. There was like
I have some at the house.
Yeah.
I have I found 2 old players at the school. They were going to throw them out where I used to teach.
And then the real mini discs.
Yes.
Like
Yep.
Man, there was this like there was so many different variations on the same thing.
Well, there was that competition too, like
Yeah.
you know, so like what was going to be more,
What and then
you know,
like,
did you want the big square thing or did you want the VHS?
proprietary? What is proprietary? Like, you know, different what do you call them? Patents on different technology that people were trying to hold on to, and what made things more expensive than other things.
And was it well? And the other thing, like
what's
for
quality?
but even though the quality was better, sometimes that always didn't pan out.
Right. Yeah. True.
Right. So it's how they
like
marketed
Betamax,
it.
right?
Yeah. So
yeah.
so they were able to get the VHS out because people didn't really want the lazy disc or the laser disc because it was costly and it was big. So it was easier to get a VHS. Theoretical some of this, but
aesthetic like ideas of like what people gravitate towards and like what's easiest, you know, like or
cost,
what people think in their mind's eye. This is the artifact, you know, like this is a pain in the ass.
Well, and it goes back.
This is like
back to what we talked about, marketing.
What? Oh, marketing.
Things don't always have to be better,
right?
You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a shit ton of artists that are booked way more than I am, and they're not any more talented to me.
No,
they're just
not
really
at
good
all.
at marketing themselves. They're spewing bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's giant marketing companies made to do that too. You know, like, and then like the problem is that like you find this like new sound or like, and that's what's happened numerous times throughout the music industry is like somebody finds a new sound and then everyone wants to duplicate it immediately, and then that causes like you know, kind of a wash of everyone doing the same thing until everyone's super tired of it.
Yeah, somebody steps out and does, you know, and to me...
And sometimes it has to do with technology.
Yeah, there's a lot of different... Good point. Technology could do that.
Like when synthesizers came in, 80s, and drum machines, just like, boom, everything was synth.
Yeah, there's a ton of that. There was a ton of that, you know.
I was listening to Springsteen's Born in the USA on the radio the other day, and I didn't realize that entire song was synthesizers.
Was it really?
Yeah. I'm just like...
shit, now I'm going to listen to it differently.
Like, that doesn't feel like red-blooded American to me enough at all.
Yeah. Willie Nelson is what?
Yeah. Man, yeah, that was really weird. Because I listen for what, like, I know what type of synthesizer things are now by sound, because I've just been studying them for the last 2 years, like nonstop, because I'm like super intrigued by the whole concept lately.
You were building one, weren't you?
Yeah. I was building an oscillator for a science project that I was doing at the time. Yeah, I don't know. And like it oscillated. It did what it, like, according to like the light mechanism, that like I had like a light bulb that I could turn up and down the voltage and it would blink faster and not, you know, which is a really simple oscillator design. Yeah, I forgot about that. Good call. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a brief. That was part of my 2020 stint away from music.
You built it, right?
What's that?
You built it, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I built like a traffic light out of it. Was like one of those like, you know, component part like projects where you like have like a green little LED and a yellow LED and a red LED, and then you put like these delay functions based off of the circuitry and the, you know, on the board.
A little bit of reading goes into figuring it out.
Yeah. Just a couple YouTube videos later, and you're like, oh wow, this is easy. You know, like just doing everything on a breadboard, so you're not soldering anything. You know, it's just making connections where they need to go.
I have a little boy that I taught, and I no longer teach, but he took a iPhone, hooked a fan to it, and was able to do variable speeds off of it somehow on his own. So I don't quite know the whole story, but his family was pretty impressed, and so was I.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, keep doing that stuff. That's great.
Well, and that's like my parents, or my grandparents being like thinking I'm a wizard because I can turn the tracking knob on a VHS player when I was a kid.
Too. Yeah.
You know, because it's like, I grew up as like, yeah, these have always existed. Why don't you know about this? You know, from my point of view, you know, as a kid.
I forgot all about the tracking.
Right. Yeah. And that.
Yeah, but you're right. You used to. Yeah. It was a roller, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You get to sync it back in, and
whereas like, yeah, like I have like the ability to change the light color in my room now, in my lamps, and I'm just like, wow, this is awesome. Like I love this. Like I have so much, like I love being able to like turn the light down and like having the light to read by at this exact level that I like it at. I don't know. It's so great.
Yeah, there's so many benefits.
Yeah,
I think.
Except for like the whole like listening into everything I'm doing.
Well, yeah, that's true. But that's true though. It is happening.
See, this is where we're hacking the whole system. We're literally just putting the microphones on our bodies so they don't have to.
And uploading it for them so they can get it.
Yeah. It's like, hey, this is what we want you to hear.
Yeah, we're speeding the process up for them. Yeah, but we were talking about that. Brad and I have been talking about that for years, and we probably won't go into too depth tonight. But we've been talking. I'm serious. Before people were, if we would have said it, they would have thought we were crazy. That's when we were talking about this.
Yeah,
and we were seeing examples of that.
Yeah,
that you're like, well, what is going on?
Like the
how
algorithms picking up things.
Yeah. I mean, and to the point where it was just
it's targeted ads and all that.
Phone communications too.
Yeah,
and we're both sober guys. It's not like we're got our head up our ass or anything. But
drunk dialing.
It was. We were seeing that, and like, of course, we didn't. You only talk to select people about it,
Oh,
and now, there's
like
been documentary after documentary.
We're in a post-Snowden reality, essentially, and it's like, this is common knowledge, This is
it's
like,
okay to say
this is where we're at. Yeah.
Not that everybody wants to talk about it, but you say it now, and it's not like they can really make you sound like a kook anymore.
And and everyone's like, we're in an Orwellian scenario. It's like, we've known that for a long time now, really. Like, we're in a very
over a decade
post-Orwellian scenario now. For sure.
Well, it was really interesting when I went to college. I don't know if I ever shared this with you guys, but when I went to college, I was pretty much off I wasn't in a lot of databases.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
When I came back, it was we had the crash of 2008. I came back, and I didn't really know what I was going to do after coming back from where I was at, and so I decided to go to college, right? Basically to hide out.
I know the feeling.
And so all of a sudden, I was living in Lakewood, and I came home, and there was I smoked Pall Mall at the time.
I like wearing hats.
And I hadn't signed up. Yeah.
Ah, nasty.
But they were with I think they made didn't they have filters with them?
I never really smoked Pall Malls.
Anyway, so that's what I was smoking, right? And in the mailbox at the address where I wasn't officially living was a coupon for me.
Okay.
In there. And I thought, all right, well, what database am I in? Like, I haven't signed up for anything. I didn't sign up for any coupon.
Yeah.
I do have a bank account now. Like, maybe, did the bank sell it? Nah, I couldn't trace it back to the bank. Okay. So I went to the college and I said, did you sell my information? Yeah. And they said, yes. And that's where so I wanted them to take me off that list. But they
legally have to tell you that.
They did in some kind of document that I probably signed, right? They chased it down, and so I wanted to come off that list, right? To come off that list, I would have had to become a number
and a nun,
and it would have been harder. It would have been harder for them to do my transcripts and my grades. So I was like, fuck it, I'm not going through all this. Yeah. But I knew that they had sold my information. I was like, that was my first experience with. I don't really like that. You know what I mean? Like, I was happy not getting all that shit.
I wonder. What the amount of people that are going towards becoming nuns and monks are at the current moment. Like, I wonder if there's like been an uptick in people just trying to live simply in that manner of fact. Not maybe because of religion, but maybe just because it's simpler lifestyle, like a minimalist kind of idea.
Well, I think it makes sense to purchase less. I think it's easier definitely. For me. I have to work less hours. I have to take care of less. It doesn't cost me as much to live. I think that, I don't know if it's an uptick of that, but I think people are changing the way they think.
Yeah.
Especially with what has happened recently.
Like, we have to take more stock where we're spending our time, I guess. Like, we're like, I know just myself, like, I can get addicted to social media instantly. Yeah. Me too. I'm there like all the time. Yeah. Like, and the last like 2 or 3 days I've been able to like not be there all the time, and it's like, okay, I can already feel a change,
It depends on what I'm doing though.
Yeah.
I haven't felt like I needed to be on my social media while talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Or when we're doing other projects, I don't feel
because we're socializing currently, right?
Yeah. I know. But when you're not here and I'm settling in, I'll be flicking and reading stuff.
And that's when it becomes escapism. Sometimes, like sometimes it's nice to just to be on there as like a form of entertainment, and like I love seeing what my friends are doing project wise, and like, you know, what kind of art, you know, my different artist friends are, you know, doing. But it like, I noticed just taking 2 days off like I did, and then coming back today and just making a quick scroll through, I'm just like, I'm just gonna see what my friends are doing, and then stop, not do like all the other, you know, Instagrams that I'm already subscribed to that I don't even know these people, you know. Like, it was weird how I made that distinction though. Like today, I'm just like, I don't even care what people are doing that I don't know, but like, I do care what my friends are doing, you know.
Yeah, to a point I feel that way, and then there's another part of me that loves to explore what other people are doing.
That's true. Yeah.
So I think it depends on the day.
Yeah.
For me.
True.
Like there are days where I'm like, yeah, fuck.
I know.
Fuck Stony Blowy in fucking Colorado. I don't give a shit what they're fucking doing.
That's what you feel like too. Like no one ever knows that you're scrolling or not. But you're just like, you know what? Fuck all these people.
That's not my grandson. You know what I mean? Like for me, like seeing my kid doing grandkids from.
It's really weird. It's like psychologically, like you're just like completely writing people off in a single motion. Like to not stop and to acknowledge someone, even in that setting, feels like you're ignoring someone, right? Well, it's weird. Yeah. It's so weird.
That is weird, but you do feel that way.
I never thought about it in those terms before. Like if I'm walking down the street and I see someone and I don't say hi, I feel bad about it. And now it's like it's
you can get away with it.
It's very parallel.
So what's that do, and how does that train your brain when you're socializing? Does that mean, you know, like, am I as friendly when I greet you with my eyes? I probably will with you because our connection is a little stronger than it might be with, like, we're talking like 7 down or 8 down or somebody totally different that likes your photography work, and you don't know them that well, but they like it. You're like, or they like my music. Do you just kind of go, you know?
Or I think I remember this guy from this place, and I don't know if I really remember him or not.
Should I wave? Should I not wave?
Yeah, there's that. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like we're getting into like weird parallels of things virtually. I guess they just recently there was a company called Spatial that just came out, and they tried to specialize in meetings, like virtual reality spaces for like company meetings. They were trying to hit like Fortune 500 companies with this thing, right? Turns out no one wants to be on virtual reality all day. But people who sell NFTs love having virtual spaces to sell NFTs as like a virtual art gallery, right? And so now like 90% of their whole business, they just became like a NFT art gallery space now. And they had no idea that that's what they were even going to do.
Right. Research showed we're getting involved in doing something. That goes back to our point, though.
Mm-hmm.
Do nothing. You know what I mean? Like if you're waiting for everything to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's like this show. We don't know what this show's going to end up with.
Right. Exactly.
I have no clue what this show's going to end up with.
The point is the journey, not the last note. Like Alan Watts, like with his analogy of the music, right? It's like the point of playing the piece of music is not playing the last note. Right? Or like the point of going to school for 20 years isn't the degree, you know? Like it's the journey of learning things. It's the journey of being able to create a melody of like different crazy harmonies and structures and surprises and silences.
Well, and it goes back to how do you motivate yourself? So like, are you motivated by the end result? Or are you motivated by, we were talking about this because I was watching a video not too long ago and it made a lot of sense. And I was thinking about why do you continue?
Yeah. Right.
Well, so do you attach that reward sensor to the whole journey, or do you attach it to, I got it done. This is the photo right here. This is the one. This is the client.
Right.
Or do you attach it to the journey of, I figured out how to market, communicate that, and to acquire that next step of business with company B or client A or client C or 24 or whatever, however you label it. And so do you value that on the whole journey or just the end result? And we get hung up on that end result a lot of times.
Yeah.
That I kind of like look at it as like a shopaholic. Mm-hmm. They're constantly going out and buying stuff, and they're looking for that next great whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so they're attached to that end result.
And in a way, it might be detrimental to not focus on the end result sometimes, depending, like we were talking about me writing that novel. It's like, I wrote a first draft of a novel and I wrote part of a second draft to one too. but that doesn't mean it's done, and I'm not really letting people read it. But does that matter in the grand scheme of things? Because writing that novel allowed me to write that script for the movie like it was nothing, because I'm like, I have to write like 5 pages, like this is the easiest thing I've ever done.
No, but you're still like, but you're still valuing the journey.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're not at the end result. You're at the you're valuing the journey.
Yeah, for sure.
So you're still at that point, and I think that's to me, it's a healthier way. That doesn't mean that you don't reward yourself.
Right.
So maybe when you do end up finishing that off, there's a reward at the end that you take care of yourself.
Maybe I never do. But like the one of the co-founders of National Lampoons, right? He wrote a whole novel. He like left National Lampoons in the middle of them becoming huge, went off and wrote a novel, and then came back and gave it to his co-founder and was like, "Hey, read this." And he's like, "Oh, right now?" He's like, "Yeah. I want to know if it's good." And then like he read the whole thing in a matter of like a day or two, and he's just like, He's like, "Yeah, that's what I thought too." He throws it in the trash. Okay, what are we doing next?
Right.
Yeah. It's like that sometimes, like it's doing a gigantic project sometimes the payoff isn't in the project itself.
You told me that this like a year ago. You did a bunch of work. You said it was a lot of work, but you learned.
Oh yeah.
So it made me spark.
Yeah.
I thought it was really valuable what he said about doing that, how much work it was, but
immensely valuable. Like you have no idea what's going to push you in what direction next, really.
That was a lot of work. I don't know if I want to do that again.
No, but you did learn to speed up a process. You were there was a benefit from it, I guess.
Yeah.
Know what you're getting into though, and maybe.
But would I do it again? I don't know. I don't think I would.
Right. Yeah. Like, man, the biggest thing about writing a novel, man, the only reason I would love to do it again is if I had time to do it again. Like that was really nice about those 4 months, is that I went to Massachusetts where I didn't have to take care of X, Y, and Z all day long. Because like when you're in one spot your whole life, you build responsibilities around you without even really realizing it.
That's the process of living.
Yeah, for sure.
We need those to anchor us to reality.
That's true too. Yeah.
It's just like here I got to clean, right? And maybe if I go to another house and I'm a visitor.
Yeah.
And I'm staying with you a week, I don't really have to clean. I might have to wipe up something I spill, or
that's true.
I'm not vacuuming the carpets. I'm not. So it's one of the examples I'm thinking of. Like you get anchored to processes in life.
I'm also thinking about just people that are in the surrounding area that you kind of make yourself self-responsible for, right? In a way. Like I look after certain people in the surrounding area that I know need help in certain ways. And I just do that automatically now without thinking about it. But in turn, that takes away a certain amount of my day, that I didn't realize that I was losing, necessarily until I moved away for a few months. And I was like, wow, I have so much time, like it's kind of weird.
Like brings me back to the struggle I have. And I don't know if you have it, Brad or BB, is that you be involved in too much.
Yeah.
At some point being involved in too much, and you alluded to this, is like when you're working on something, you try to concentrate on it, right? And you stay focused on that.
Yeah.
But when we have too many things going on, we're not great. The project suffers, or we're not moving that goal forward. And that I've struggled with that a lot in my life, is like getting distracted by things that maybe don't quite fit with the vision of what I want to do, or where I'm going, or what I'm trying to accomplish.
And just interpersonal relationships of a life in the middle of it too will completely dissolve certain momentums and things too. Like you fail at one thing and you feel like everything you're doing at the time period is a failure, and that's easy just to throw everything away at the same time, and that's happened to me multiple times. That it's hard, it's hard to keep on an even keel. It's hard to focus on one thing at a time, and just being able to be fluid enough to change on a dime too. Scheduling is nice. Like if I can set things up at least a week in advance or so, I know that I have time to change my mind frame to be focused on that thing by the time I get there, you know? But if we're going to do it that night, I might not be completely all the way there. I don't know if I can change gears that fast all the time, you know?
That comes down to boundaries.
Right.
So you know that you can work.
Yeah.
You know, I know I can work this way. So if we were to call you again and say, you know, hey, we need you to come on over in 48 hours, and you have a strong enough relationship with you to say, no, I'm going to need, you know, I might need a week, you know what I mean? Or, you know, so I know it's kind of a.
Here's a funny rock and roll story along those lines of boundaries, right? Like, so apparently Elvis Presley was in the studio one day, right? And they're like listening to Jerry Reed comes on the radio, right? And he's like, God damn, like, how do we get our record to sound like that? And they're like, well, to get it to sound like that, you need Jerry Reed. He's like, okay, where's he at?
Yeah, right.
They like flew an airplane down to like Nashville and woke Jerry Reed up at like 3 a.m. like, hey dude, we need you to play guitar on this Elvis Presley track real quick.
No kidding. Yeah.
Because there's no one who plays guitar like Jerry Reed, and that's a fact, you know, like you can't, there's no one who does, you know. Big Jerry Reed fan. For obvious reasons.
Yeah,
look up Lightning Bolt, whatever it's called.
It's a neat story.
Yeah. Oh my God, he's amazing. He just looks like he's like half trashed all the time with like a hat on that's like falling off. Like he's like, oh, I got this lick, and then he just blows the doors off of everyone's faces, and like he's like, there we go. How you doing, you goofball? You know, he's just a living being of just like, I don't know, rolling down the hill, avalanche style life that he lived. So cool, you know, to just witness that in action, you know.
Well, yeah, everybody, yeah. But
Rolling Thunder, you can hear echoes of that guy. Like way after he dies, like you'll always hear Eastbound and Down.
And I wonder how many people wrote him off because of the way he was.
Right, yeah.
You know, so
well, Chad Atkins didn't, and they just had dueling guitar like TV shows and stuff, and like
yeah. I think I might have seen what you're talking about there.
Yeah. I bet you did.
Is he a heavier set guy?
No.
No?
He's pretty thin actually.
Is
but he played he was the co-star in Smokey and the Bandit with Burt Reynolds.
Okay.
He was the truck driver guy.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah. All right. So
and he wrote
know.
Eastbound and Down for that movie.
Okay.
But like his instrumental stuff was, I think, way better. Like he had this guitar playing style that was like super crazy and all over the fretboard, and like blows your mind. Like he's just doing things that like I can't really even comprehend half the time. And I'm like, okay, I get kind of what this is, but I would have never transitioned into that. And like none of this makes perfect sense when he's doing it.
But it doesn't make sense, yeah.
But then I am like looking at the guitar and I'm like, wow,
how do you arrive to that in your own head to
like,
create it? Yeah.
That was like a patchwork of like, you know, things that he put in his brain over a long amount of time of just playing so many different styles of guitar, and like gypsy to classical and back again.
Well, it goes down to the human spirit.
Right.
Like that's why there's room for everybody.
Yeah.
Like to do well too. Like it doesn't have to necessarily look like what you do or what I do or what Brad does or anybody, but as long as you do it well.
And it's so authentic and warm. I don't know, man.
Authentic is I love authentic. I'm so stuck on authentic here this last year. It's like that that resonates with me. Be authentic. No matter what you're doing, be yourself.
And it's so and not to throw shade on Chet Atkins at all, but like when he was doing those guitar duo things, like Chet Atkins was cold and he was calculated and he knew what he was doing, which made Jerry Reed look even more warm and lovable, like, and genuine. And just in general, it was just such a stark contrast between their styles. Even though they were playing the same style of music, it was completely different.
That goes,
night and day.
To me, that goes back to energy.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah,
you know, that resonate. Everybody like that vibration we're talking about. Like E
equals MC squared, man. Like all matter is energy, right?
So you
like, that's what it is.
There's authentic, when you're being authentic like that, it resonates with people. It's like the difference for me when I see somebody smile, like I smile, and I tell you to smile, and then I catch your smile.
Right.
There's two different smiles. The muscle movement's different. So one's forced and one's authentic, right? So the same is true about life, man. If your energy's off, people pick up on that.
Yeah.
Even if you are a kind person or a good person, or it's not that you're not a good person, it's just you're not vibrating at the right level, or you're not vibrating at the level you could. That's what I should say.
Yeah. Trying to tell me something, Joe?
I don't know. Am I? Vibrate, motherfucker. I heard some vocals over there. I almost got startled.
World is his vibrations.
I thought he sneezed.
I heard an interesting concept the other day in like kind of like the yogi world, right? Where there's like 3 different types of energies that they talk about, and I forget what their actual Sanskrit names are, but like it basically goes like the first level is like boring, inert, like kind of energy, and then you go to the second level.
You're at the first level.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Asshole.
The second level is activation and passion.
That's
okay.
Me. That's kind of me.
And then
activation.
The third.
Yeah, but you fuck up audio.
The third is like calm and like strong and just being balanced, essentially. The crazy thing I was thinking about today about that is that like the boring level and the third level of being calm
can be
probably looks very similar.
Yeah. That's where I went.
Yeah. Like, and so that's interesting to me how paradoxical that could be, because maybe it does work in that kind of like circular fashion, right? Because you're going from, there's like a spectrum from boredom to activation to
calm
centered to just being boring again. And like we probably can all hit on a spectrum of all of those things from certain times day to day, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely. I would think that you can activate that.
Yeah. Because I don't know. I mean, like,
because I was bored earlier today. I had read so much shit on one subject that I was down. Like, am I at the end? I know I'm not at the end of the subject matter, but I'm like, I'm at the end for now for me. You know what I mean? I was kind of bored with it.
Yeah, and I think that there, like, I sometimes get to those points too where I don't know what to do next. Like in a day, and then I'm just like, and then that's when like social media will just pop in and be like, hey, here's half an hour gone, real quick. And I'm like, oh shit. And then I turn off the phone and I was like, oh yeah, I got on the phone to do this thing. I completely forgot about an hour ago.
Sidetracked 3 times before I got to the task at hand.
Yeah. So noticing the times when you're at that bored, inert level, I think is important. And there's an advantage to noticing that level, I think too, is because you can use that time right there to like kind of take a moment of silence and a restocking of inventory, so to say, right? Of where you're at, and like
that starts to become the action part. Maybe the lower scale of it. I don't know.
Well, the action of non-action, right?
Right. Well, to realize it.
Yeah.
So you're realizing your way out of it again.
The non-action part is creating non-action in yourself. And then that allows thoughts to arise that didn't have the space to arise beforehand, right? Because the boredom is probably almost like a call back to your normal addictions or escapisms, and you're just like, oh, I'm bored, but I want to fill time. I want to like turn on a show or do explore this thing, or like numb my mind for a moment this way, And sometimes you can learn some things that way, like if I'm like on there learning about alternative energy or something or another like that, it's sometimes productive. Sometimes it's just shit I've already heard, but like,
yeah. But is it, so now we're dancing between physical world and mental world, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Very much so.
There's a balance to that too. Like acquiring more knowledge can help you in other things that you're working on if you're actually working and taking action on those other projects or whatever, right? So
yeah, well,
that's a balance. I mean, the physical world and the mental world they seem very separate sometimes, but I don't know. You have to do both to.
Yeah.
You have to gain new knowledge to be able to create a table, maybe, or or an oscillator, or make a song, or write a song, or write in that style, or write poetry, or paint. You have to sometimes acquire new skills through visual perception, not the actual physical of doing it. Sometimes you have to do the actual physical action.
Yeah, sometimes you can just physically write a song just in your head, like as it's going, or like for the show that I'm like practicing for right now, I'm finding myself like thinking about the songs and restructuring the songs in my head. Like, okay, when I get to this point, this is how I want it to go, or I want the bass line to do this now. Because
so how do you quantify that? Some people could say, fuck, I followed BB around for fucking 48 hours and this dude is fucking did nothing but, eat Cheetos and, whatever, how does that, some people can really look at some other people's lives and they can't quantify what they're doing.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Like
I think in the art world, that's really
the old adage of like Michelangelo, right? When he was studying to do the Statue of David, they like said that he hung out, like he was commissioned to do the Statue of David. And so he, it's like, okay, I need a cottage to live in for this amount of time. And I need a servant to feed me and stuff and then he just sat there in that cottage and did nothing with a block of marble for months, and like, until like they sent somebody to him and be like, so are you going to like start working on this
when are you going to start chiseling this?
Yeah. And he's just like, I've been working on it for a few months now. I think I'm almost done with it. Like he was doing all of the work in his head, planning every part of that piece before he even.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That would be fun to find stories like that.
Yeah.
Where people are building, like you're talking about the music, looking over
because it definitely happens.
Oh, like, I'm sure it happens. There's so much in this world you can't quantify. That's why it's really hard for somebody that's logical to look at other disciplines sometimes and go, like, what value is there? Like, well, you just can't see it. Like, it's not the same.
But other artists will have completely different methods too. Where like Jean Girard, Mobius, right? Like an old comic writer from the 70s did like massive landscape type stuff, huge solar systems, like huge like structures that were super depth. Like he was like fashion designer, so many different things within his artwork, right? Lots of detail. But the way that he constructed things on his off time, he would just like draw without thinking.
Oh, it was a dude. I've seen this guy.
Yeah. He's huge. He's one of the biggest artists in the world.
He was in a documentary I watched within the last 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And he would just, I forget what they call it. It was just
just like free writing essentially, or free drawing.
Yep.
But yeah, just like,
I'm bad at names.
Yeah,
I'm really bad, but I do know the story.
Yeah. But yeah, like he would just draw indiscriminately on a page and then just seeing how the shapes would run. And then just whatever the shapes would run would react in different ways.
Yeah, and some characters would come out of that every once in a while when you go back to writing and drawing. But there was some Japanese artists around him too that were talking about him.
Okay.
From the 70s too. I wish I could remember the thing because if you haven't seen
the documentary,
what this is, I think you would appreciate it because he was brought up. So
I'll
if
check it out. Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm always interested in that guy and like his philosophy because I just heard that from like one of his students did an interview about his methods, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was really intriguing to me as far as like how different people approach art, like because it is though always a living thing. Like your artwork isn't done until you're dead, like essentially, right? Like you can go back, like I'm performing a song on Friday that I wrote 5 years ago that's going to be completely different than the way I wrote it.
Right.
Thelonious Monk. Yeah, exactly. And I knew that they would, like when I wrote the songs and I recorded them, they felt robotic at the time. Right? Like knew,
but it's like a painter. I'm sorry, but it's kind of like a painter. Like when I used to oil paint, I'm not great at it. I enjoy doing it, but in my head, I would always have like, oh, this is what I want. Right?
Yeah.
And this is what I can produce.
Yeah.
Same with music. This is what I know you listen to enough
That's
music,
true.
you know that, oh, this can be done, but this is what I produce.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because you're limited in as far as you are in time now.
You're right.
Like this is the skills that I've gotten to so far. And this is all that I can pull off. And that's exactly what that album was. It's like, this is how far I got. And this is what they all sound like. And it all kind of sounds robotic. And it sounds like like it was intricate. It felt really good and really big in its own way. But now I look at it, and I'm just like, oh, well, but everything's a lot looser to me now. Like I can just like, well, I'm just going to do this. You know what? I'm going to give this a little bit more space, because I know that at that point when I was building in that spot, I always felt like it was like I could never get to the spot I needed to go. And it's like not because I needed to try to put more things in a small space, it's because I just needed to give it more space. And now as kind of a seasoned, more in piano and music, like I can see that, where I couldn't before.
And I think you're talking about music theory when you start on that level.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. Because theoretically wise, like you're talking about notes and chord structures and how the notes interwork with each other. This is more like aesthetically like pleasing. Okay. I feel like, right. Because this isn't anything to do with like the actual notes. Because like to me, I'm still playing the same notes essentially, but what I'm playing is emotionally, or I don't know how I want to say it, but like
well, in that section there, I heard that you're letting it breathe a little bit more, so that it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, because it's like before I just was like, well, and then I get to the spot and I start like hitting, and then I have to hit this high note with my voice, and then I come all the way down and I have to hit this thing. Whereas like now I'm just like, really, do I have to put myself through that? Like, it didn't really sound good anyway. So I'm just going to like get to the top and then start the thing. And then when I hit to the top of it, I'll start doing the thing, and then come down, it's like, because you just give it that extra little thing, and it completely it opened it up a lot in that section.
Well, it changes it for everybody.
Yeah,
changes
that's
it for
true
you
too.
and the
entire energy
viewer,
of it changes, and like what you're trying to convey changes too. And really like the entire meaning of the song has changed for me since then too. When I wrote it and what I was writing it about at the time is a different thing to me now as well, I guess. I've learned a lot since then, 5 years ago.
So, should we wrap this up?
No, I think we should.
Let's keep going.
Keep going
I don't know how much longer
until the sun comes up.
I
know it's gonna be close.
The batteries.
Well, I just, I don't know. I guess we're gonna wrap it up.
Unless you want to keep talking.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Out.
But BB, I thank you so much, brother, for coming over.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
So I see you as like a kind of world traveler, kind of free spirit kind of guy,
That's what I'm aiming for.
And I think a lot of people like you kind of, but you kind of do the things you want to do. And I see a lot of people struggle with that.
Structure of our system.
Yeah. So what would you say to people
to do what I do?
To kind of be that kind of person to open themselves to other experiences and other,
I would say that I'm really lucky in a lot of ways that maybe other people aren't, as far as with time constraints. I'm unlucky in a lot of other ways. Given the constraints that I have, the ability to just use my time freely like I do is like based off of a lot of sacrifices, right? Like I sacrifice having a lot of stability and a lot of normality in my life structure when it comes to housing and relationships and material possessions in general, right? But like that also affords me a lot of time of just open time to decide what I want to do with it, which is kind of like why I think in terms of psychology so often, is because I've had a long time where I've had kind of just this time to work with, like just of my own volition or free will, like kind of like idea, like how do I structure my time? How do I want to use my time? Because those are all very hard things that even like when people get to retirement, right? And they've been working their whole life, and they get to 65 and now I can do anything I want. And it's overwhelming because they don't know how to structure their own time. And that it is very, very hard when you don't know how to do it, because You also have a lot of other stressors as far as society and the normality of 9 to 5. And even not doing 9 to 5, you feel like you should. Like I should wake up early because that's what you do to be a productive member of society, right? Like that's the motto of the society. That's their mode of operandi, right? But if you're not doing that, and you're waking up at like noon, but you're staying up till 4 because you're like working on these projects or whatever, it's like sleep is still very, very important. Okay. Willpower is a diminishing value that you have within yourself. And if you don't get sleep, you don't have willpower. Okay. And so if like I get great sleep, I sleep 8 hours every night, and I have for a long, long time. There's been time periods where I've had rough nights and rough weeks and months and things like that. But like overarchingly, like I've always gotten really good sleep, and that's set my willpower to be very, very strong over all the situations, whether it be addictions or whether it even be eating healthy, or exercising. Like, because all of those 3 factors, exercising, addiction, and food, play heavily into your abilities as, being productive or whatever that means, or just being creative, and being able to know that you're in control of your mind, and you're in control of, like, because I don't know, I mean, like, everyone goes through time periods where they're not in control of their mind growing up, and like trying to find that balance of things, but all of these things take a long time to figure out, and so I would say that's how you do that. And it's really, really difficult. But I mean, I think that I probably have, like I said before, I'm super blessed in a lot of different ways, where a lot of different people are helping me do different things in different capacities. Which if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to do what I do either. So I don't know. I mean, like the answer is gonna be different for everyone, and then just being able to, go through all those factors, like how do I get control of my mind mainly, I guess, and what do I want to sacrifice?
Because there's always a sacrifice.
Yeah, because you
for
can't
both
do everything.
Every side, like no matter what you do, there's a trade-off for your decision.
And I don't like that. We don't. I mean, like there's parts of my life that feel like torture because of that too. Because I'm just like, oh well, but I really want this thing, and I want this normality, and I want this type of life, I think. But then when I get there, I immediately blow it off and blow it up, and I'm gone. And like I'm like, wow, this like my life is horrible. It's always going to be this way. But I'd made that choice, and I made this choice to be this way, and in ways it's really fun, in ways it's not, but yeah, so I mean, it's going to be like that no matter what you're doing in your life, I think,
but at the same time you find the things that fulfill your life, even though you do have all of this other kind of things that get you down, and
right,
I mean, the hard parts of life, that you still seek out the things that kind of make you happy and
balanced in its own way. Yeah. I think that's partially why I study culture and anthropology in a way, because I know that not adhering to the normalcy of culture that we have is okay, because nobody throughout history has ever done what we're doing. If I'm operating as if we were, 10,000 years ago, that's still valid, essentially, like that was a valid way of living. And that's, you can attain happiness, and you can attain a fulfilled life, and boom, that's it, like that's all you need to do. You don't need to do any of these other things, and that worked perfectly well for humans then, and humans then were no different than we are now. And I think that's a very, very important thing to understand. And that at least is an excuse for me to live in my fashion.
Well, I don't think I'm just going to backtrack. Yeah. I don't want you to go light on that, because I think what you're saying, I kind of understand what you're saying. I think I'm feeling
right when I say excuse. Right, like
like getting bogged down, and we talked about living simply a while back, is like getting bogged down in all this escapism and having XYZ and, having a 4,000 square foot home, does that make sense? And you say you look back on culture and how it was thousands of years ago, and that doesn't make sense unless you have a clan living there, right? So, I think it's important to maybe not live like everybody else.
That's true too.
I mean, I don't know how
perspective.
I don't know how you obtain happiness in my mind. How you obtain happiness by chasing after a $400,000 car. Not that I don't want to have nice stuff, but I don't know that in itself is
a prescribed reality.
Yeah, I don't know that that's going to make much of a difference one way or the other.
No.
In my head, if I'm running after a $400,000 vehicle, do I have time to go sit with my mother when she's 75 or 80? Do I have time so there's always these trade-offs like you're saying, but I really like that kind of thinking about you, BB. It's a great question, Brad. I take it back. I take it back
from my
what I said earlier.
I
kind of feel like an asshole now.
I totally appreciate
because you said something that so I apologize.
You're
just a part of my heart. Not the whole thing.
I'll let you slide, Joe.
All right.
I like you guys. You guys got a chemistry going on, man.
Well, you haven't seen the other ones yet.
But I also admire him, Brad, and I thought you brought up a good point about what you see. And that's a lot of friendships and relationships is how we see each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I mean, that's something that I appreciate about BB is that he does find the things that he's not trying to be something he's not. And that's totally admirable from my perspective.
When I'm writing songs, I'm not writing songs. I'm like doing therapy to myself. That's essentially...
I know I don't speak for Brad, but and I know he feels the same way because we know how we feel about people, and we've had enough conversations that I really, really hope that you continue to have success in the things that you dive into, or even that's personal, whether that's public or not. We always want to support individuals around us. So I'm really excited
for having me on your show.
Yeah, man.
This is cool.
Thanks for coming. Taking the time.
I'm having a good time.
We want to have you on just before.
Thanks for being on my show right now.
Yes, your show.
Did you hear what he said though? We want to have you on before Jubilee Go again and talk a little bit about that and the bands.
Cool.
And
I'm down.
But Brad picked you for the first one.
Yeah,
which was exciting.
There's all kinds of things to talk about Jubilee Go and different bands I want to talk to or different bands I have been talking to, and I like the abilities that having a festival gives you, right? It's weird. You don't necessarily understand the eventualities or the consequences of putting yourself in a situation, right? It's really stressful to organize a big thing like this, but it also gives me opportunities where I can be I'm going to talk to this band that I really like that I have no other reason to talk to other than I'm inviting you to this festival right now, and that puts me on an even keel with a lot of different people.
When you're at the festival, I got a question for you. How do you feel as the day's going on? Do you feel kind of overwhelmed at times still?
Sometimes I'll forget to eat and I'll crash really hard.
Well, that's good to know, man.
Yeah, we do that too.
We didn't eat very much last time.
Yeah. Traditionally, it's a marathon type of event for me.
Continued success, man. Well, not even success, continued experiences.
Love you guys.